Bob, hi. How are you doing, mate? Thanks for doing this with me.
Hi, Stewart.
Yeah, we had an online interaction, and you know, it sort of started overflowing, and we couldn't really get enough information. You know, there wasn't enough bandwidth just with text alone. So you suggested we have some sort of like an online discussion. And I thought that's a great idea. And I invited you, and you said yes. So I really appreciate this for coming on. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you too, because I have questions, and that was a really inefficient way to talk, I think, and it's really not the right place to discuss these things in a YouTube comment section.
Absolutely true. And okay, so you're full anonymous mode. Your name is Bob and Alice. You're the person that people send Bitcoin to, and Eve is the one that intercepts it. Right. Okay, so I'm not assuming that I'm able to answer questions. Normally, it's the reverse role where I sort of ask the questions. And you answer the questions. So I don't know, like maybe you can tell us a bit about yourself. You know, like what's your sort of background, and you know,
all right,
is what you're comfortable to share.
So Bob is, like I said, very close to my real name, sort of an acronym, and I like Bob because he's a decent guy. He's not the smartest usually in the cryptographic scripture, if you wish, but he means well generally. And yes, Alice pays him a lot. That's nice. So I live in Central Europe. I'm in my 40s, and my nick Moonsettler came from, I don't know. It started like a joke when I registered to BitMEX, you know, BitMEX Trollbox, and it just seemed like a fun thing that tells nothing about me for anyone, because it's really like a parody of the Moonboyish attitude, you know.
Yeah, sure.
The Bitcoin will absorb everything, and we go to the moon, and
when moon.
yes, and it grew on me, so I kind of like it. So my background is I'm a developer, not a blockchain developer, but work in industrial automation. And I had cryptography as a hobby as a child, really. So it was always very interesting to me. And really early on, I got obsessed with randomness, random numbers. It seemed to me that it's basically the key to the universe as far as the cyberspace goes. And potentially the real space too. Who knows, you know?
Meat space, right?
Yeah, meat space. Yes, I got into this thing as a teenager, really, and that's just an interesting detail. I even tried to design and build hardware that can generate real random numbers after failing a lot with pseudo-random generators. And
are you familiar with Nibe of Japan, a guy named Nibe who created the GNUC, which is like a hardware dongle, open source hardware dongle, which can actually generate random.
No, but I had a comport pluggable device that used the noisy Zener diode that probably did a very similar thing, only the bandwidth of it was horrible. But if you have real random as source, anything, then you generally can use cryptographic functions to like explode that. And of course, this was way before every CPU had real quantum physics-based random number generator instructions. So it was no odd project. It's just interesting that I really fell in love with cryptography and random numbers and the information asymmetry as general.
Yeah, I think that's the whole key to everything, really. It's like, to reverse a function, you have to basically, wait for the heat death of the universe, basically, and that's just absolutely amazing.
Yes, it's truly amazing, and that the fact that the brutal power asymmetry, knowing a secret, a real secret, an unguessable secret, means, that not even nation states, but probably galactic empires can't deal with that, as far as we know. And it could literally bankrupt them to try to guess a 20 plus character passphrase if you are using a strong key derivation like script. So it's insane.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
people like to think about physical things when they think about their security, like this is a really good safe and I hidden it really well under my basement or whatever, and
yeah.
the truth is it's measured in hours at best. It's measured in hours. To break a safe, you can use a portable plasma cutter and a hammer or a crowbar, and you can open with very little noise anything practically. And and we are talking about quintillion years. We are talking about good cryptographic security. It's completely incomparable. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, no, it's true. I lost the passcode to decrypt one of my keys, and yeah, I had like, I had GPUs on that thing trying to reverse engineer it, like at least collapsing the entropy space, try to narrow it down, but no,
Yeah.
nothing.
It's really daunting, and just because it's so daunting, even if someone has like a really bad passphrase, if he's using a good protocol, people may not even try, right? They may rather go the $5 wrench way because it's just insanity to even try to guess.
So when you say the $5 wrench, are you referring to the XKCD comic? Is that correct?
Yes. It's basically the main representation of state coercion, when
Yeah,
they rather throw you in jail if
sure,
you don't cough up your password, and then you
sure.
can say, fine, jail me, and I will be very, 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 very rich when I get out, if I get
Yeah,
out.
Julian Assange knows all about that. Hey?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, no. WikiLeaks, the trials and tribulations of. To me, there were two defining moments. One was the Cyprus haircut, and then also WikiLeaks on trying to, how WikiLeaks managed to escape the blockade that was imposed on them by Visa, Mastercard, and the rest of them. So, yeah, talking about the implementation of this, like crypto and cryptography, and how it sort of enables it enables systems whereby states cannot capture it, and
Yeah.
the loops and hoops that Assange and the WikiLeaks team were jumping through to heap their systems up was just insane. So, yeah.
It's empowering the individual on a level that is completely unprecedented in the mid space. I think that's the final result
Yeah.
of all this, and it's really just mathematics.
Yeah, yeah, and mathematics is just like the written word, basically. So it's the same as price information. So in theory, in countries where there's free speech, that should be covered.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, some sort of some patent law doesn't allow that, which is I think it's a bit of a travesty. So
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, like back in the Project Xanadu days when they discovered Diffie-Hellman related material and pretty good privacy and whatnot. They had to get there was the U.S. government prevented the exporting of
Yes,
crypto.
there was some silly law about exporting strong cryptography.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
So what they did was they printed the shit on T-shirts, they printed it on books, and then just then it becomes written word. It's covered by free speech laws, right? So these guys in the government, they were like, okay, we know this is going to be an uphill battle. It just takes a matter of somebody they didn't say anything. They were just like, okay, let's just quietly step back from this.
It also works the other way around, because when someone is trying to erode free speech, tries to curb it, condition it, and try to manage it, then cryptography is really just makes it impossible. And so long that the economy and commerce relies heavily on cryptography and protocols that provide good security and secrecy, like the HTTPS. So long there is that thing needed by everyone, I think it's a lost battle. Because at the end of the day, you can try to filter out protocols at the ISP level, but then everyone will just use HTTPS and bye.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got a few points to sort of bitch about or rant about that particular thing. I think HTTPS, and I think the whole anyway. Yeah.
I think I know where you would be going with that, and I agree. I have issues about the chain of trust. But,
yeah, exactly.
But so about myself, I was like in the first lines of the notes I have made of what I'm willing to reveal about myself. I made a little prep work because I don't want to make too big a mistake. So
you don't want to be what? Sorry.
I don't want to make a big mistake.
I understand.
So I'm looking to retire. I'm looking to retire at this point. I don't want to work for money anymore in my life. I'm in the process where I want to transition to get into the things I want to do instead of the things I have to do. And I would really like to get into Bitcoin development, but it's a daunting thing. When you just even contemplate going through the Bitcoin mailing list, the backlog of developer discussion, reading all the beeps, understanding before you are even should be allowed to contribute a single line of code to Bitcoin. So that's like I think it really needs a clean slate in your mind when you are truly leaving behind your early life, and you can really focus on what you want to do. And it's a state of mind that I have not yet achieved, but I'm striving for, and hoping that maybe even in a tiny little way I can contribute, to this thing. And one more thing, yes, we talked about I wish to remain anonymous, and many reasons for that. One of the reasons is if you are heavily invested bias towards Bitcoin and you haven't cashed out a significant amount, and your life and OPSEC does not reflect what a Bitcoiner must do to be safe, then it's a really bad idea to dox yourself. And also the other part is I generally just detest social media. I like anonymous forums and free speech. Censorship just bugs me. And of course it comes with the downside of spam, where most people think some moderation is necessary to live, and there is this debate where if muting from your part, thus censoring your own word is enough is efficient enough or not, or some moderation is needed. Mostly, at least about remaining on topic and really bagging spam and some seriously illegal content. So stuff like that is up for debate. And I don't have a hard stance on it. I know I generally prefer free speech and no moderation. And even having a pseudo identity is hard for me, really. So I'm not used to it. If you look at my Twitter account, it's only a few weeks old. I don't know how long, but it's not much. YouTube, same. I tried very long and very hard not to have any social media presence, and I only trying something different for multiple reasons. One is because I would like to get into the space. I would like to talk to people in a meaningful way, not just abuse and general shitposting. And another thing about anonymous forums is you can't really have a discussion that matters there. Sometimes memes are born there and they take on a life, but those messages must be really, really dense, right? So it's maybe a couple of words and a picture. And you can tackle complex issues with memes. Sometimes it comes out well, but it's not generally conductive. And really the so anyways, that's why I'm experimenting with some social media exposure, but strictly in a pseudo-anonymous manner. And one other thing, or maybe two, I would like to share is I'm generally non-religious, but I believe in the scientific method. The scientific method is not validating itself. You have to believe in it. You have to believe that it gives some form of optimum over time if done properly. You have to believe that, and generally science gives us reproducible results, so it's useful. That's what I like about it. I think if you want to be mean to religious people, you could say that libraries are filled with books that give you excuses why God does not produce reliable results, why he does not protect you from bad things happening. Entire libraries full of this stuff. And science just doesn't work that way, right? And of course, the whole fallibility thing, because science is inherently fallible. Anything we think we know today can be proven completely wrong the next day, and I think that's just generally the way to do, and that should be how Bitcoin works, developed and discussed too, because this entire thing I perceive about this trend towards dogmatism and thought leaders, thought leaders just swamping anything about I don't know, any point someone wants to make is just get some meme answer from some thought leader, and then his followers are just really bury the entire thing under it's abuse, really, what happens. And some people take pride in it and they think it's a good system, but I don't think it's conductive. If science worked like this, we would still be using stone axes. Come on.
I agree with you more. I think you're pointing a finger at what this concept called toxic maximalism.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Like a couple of Indabas ago, I had with Professor Robin Hansen, and during the Indaba we spoke about, like, he brought up this idea of, like, why is it, like, for example, in the formal legal system with the legal language, why doesn't it translate into, like, everyday life, basically? And as well, like, for example, another example is like the formal academic language. Why doesn't that translate into sort of like everyday life? And why don't people want that? Yeah.
Yes, because it's hard, I think. And
Yeah.
this is one more point I wanted to make, that I am really fascinated with proof of work, and
the simplicity, huh?
yes, when I first read the Bitcoin white paper, and I will come back to this later, but I was it was like a bit of a lightning strike, like a light bulb went off that there is something we can do completely differently now, and this is a genius idea. But the truth is, recently, as I have been thinking about, proof of work is not a new thing, like at all. And it's potentially as old as mankind itself. Because if you think about pieces of art, like pieces of art, a lot of work goes into it, and you can immediately verify it by looking at it. So there is this asymmetry between work and verification. So in a roundabout way, it could be as old as mankind, and could be that the earliest proofs of work were hunter trophies. Who knows? But science definitely is based on proof of work, and I think I heard in your discussion, maybe I'm not mistaken, that the legal system uses proof of work heavily to make sure that you do the work, you invest your work, and the judge can verify it very quickly.
That was with Paul Stock.
Yes.
Yeah, and he made a good point about that. I thought that was quite a bit of a enlightening moment for me.
That was new to me. I was mainly fascinated by the science using proof of work for centuries, really, and because it works, right? It's a good system. It works, and it would be horrible if the academic discussion was not based on proof of work, publicly verifiable proof of work. That is literally how science is made.
It sounds like the current academic system is more based on proof of stake, and proof of stake is also another system that's centuries old, right?
Yes. Yes, it seems like these two systems battles each other, but I think proof of work will prevail in that it produces better results.
Sure.
In science, at least, I think. But that's a personal take on this.
Well, what does Richard Dawkins say in response to science? He says, well, aeroplanes can fly and medicine works and computers work, bitch.
Yes, they work. They work. I mean, before this all, some people actually had a strong belief that flying is impossible. And what can they say about airplanes? So
well, there's the proof. It's in the air, eh?
yes, and it's a lot of work. Like it was really a chain of proof of work to get there. And one builds on the other, and really it's independently verified, and ultimately it is verified by us by observing the reality. That's the end result.
But
sorry, I wanted to make one more thing, because when I first read the Bitcoin white paper, what really struck me is this can change everything about how we organize ourselves in society in regards to trustful centralized structures could be replaced with something much better. But of course, this is a very bold and far-fetching dream, and I know a lot of people boast about this being inevitable, but I don't think it is inevitable. But I certainly saw the potential for a great change about removing trust. That maybe we have arrived into a technological development stage as civilization where we can do away with the trustful structures that were needed, because the information traveled very slowly and people couldn't communicate efficiently. So if you wanted to implement direct democracy, like direct democracy in the era of George Washington, That would have simply been impossible. But today, with crypto technology, and I don't want to say, everyone says it's Bitcoin, not crypto, but in this regard, I don't think Bitcoin is a good idea to get into this directly. But crypto technology, generally, and I think you will agree that there is a huge potential in public keys as identity. I think I heard you talking about, and you came to the same conclusion that really all sorts of centralized ledgers are abusable, and there is always something to be exploited there, potentially, or exploited and extorted. So really, what gives us real freedom, and Bitcoin worked like this from the get-go, right? From the start, from day one, worked like that you had a public key, and that public key was your identity, and it worked fine, and it doesn't translate to anything else, and I don't understand why 10 years have passed, and we very little places you can use public keys as identity. They even try to do this with Lightning, where they try to use HTTPS queries, and I don't know what sorts of attack vectors can go into that if you want to generate a Lightning invoice on a web server, and I don't like it. If you want to go this route, then the link should give a public key, and the peer-to-peer queries should be able to give you the invoice, and you could it would be signed. It would be signed and immutable, and the same goes for IP addresses, DNS and IP addresses. It's just, why do we have these centralized structures when all right, I don't have to tell you this because I think you know it better than me.
Yeah, but I mean, I specifically implemented an internet protocol which exactly solves the problem that you've just spoken about.
Fantastic.
Exactly solves it.
Fantastic. Yeah. I missed this. I missed this for a decade. Really, a decade has passed and nothing happened, and I grew frustrated. I sometimes tweet post and say mean things about Bitcoin. If you look at my Twitter post, I try to engage people. I try to get blown the fuck out, I try to get better food, because that would actually make me sleep better. If they could disprove my points trivially and show me how there is this just a nothing burger, and I get no engagements, and I'm very happy that you actually engaged with me in this debate, because I really miss that someone talks about this stuff. All right. So
it sounds like you got a brain on your head, and when I started engaging with you, I was like, oh, this guy's kind of interesting. I think I want to get into a higher bandwidth conversation with this guy. So yeah.
Yes, I absolutely felt the same way. Yes, because and really it was awesome. Sometimes I try to engage with smart people, and mostly they just ignore things. And I understand they are probably swamped. Like you have 10,000 followers, and you are absolutely swamped with everything.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the hack that I'm doing at the moment, is that, like, literally it's this Indaba process is literally a hack, so I can engage in conversations with people, and it requires in certain things, like, for example, going out into revealing my identity, etc., like that.
Yeah.
But what happens is, like, I can record these nice conversations with people, then I broadcast them, because that's almost like the sugar. Do you see what I mean? Like, as more people watch it, then the probability of me being able to engage with interesting conversations with other people around the world just increases. Otherwise, I'm like, just like an anonymous nobody dude. Like,
yes, you're shouting into the hurricane. Really, you're shouting angrily at the hurricane, and it does nothing at all. Like, it doesn't care, and the hurricane really has no intelligence. Like it's the lowest common denominator of the forces that form society, and really it's mostly just abuse. I think abuse and gloating and trolling. That's
Right.
the vast majority of discussion currently around Bitcoin, and that's
Well,
just not productive.
it's not what Bitcoin was back in the old days of Bitcoin
Yes,
talk, right?
yes, and so I could talk just very quickly about my political views. I think I'm comfortable with revealing them. Not
Great.
personal information, but I can tell you how I see the world, if that's
Great.
interesting. For people to better place, have a better picture of me and better place what I say. But I don't want to take too much time. If that's okay with you, we could
Do,
have the
do
the
take as
conversation.
much time as you want. This is as I mentioned in the conversation I had. Just imagine we're sitting in like a beer garden in
All
Berlin
right.
or Hamburg or something. Doesn't really matter. Just but don't waffle. Don't waffle though.
All right. All right. So I think my political views are not very surprising in the Bitcoin community. I'm basically a libertarian. I think that's the best word. So I'm very free choice and free and efficient market. But there is also the clause that do no harm, right? Right, the doctor's oath, do no harm. Try not to. That is the line for your freedom to do no harm to others. And I firmly believe that regulation is just introduces inefficiencies, right? That's all it does at the end of the day, introduces inefficiencies. But I also think that in the real space, mid space, if you like, the state is needed. It, I don't see it work. I think the anarchists are smoking some interesting pipe. It's unworkable because the monopoly on violence is does two things. One, the place where you live will not be called hell on earth. That's one thing. You know, where nobody has a monopoly on violence. The things that happen, like in war zones, and I don't know, it's just horrible, right? And at the best place, when you have a status quo between two parties or three that are really powerful but not all powerful, you're gonna have hurts and hurt feelings and self-righteous bloodshed very quickly, I think. So medieval Italy, I think, is probably a good study of this, where you can have generation-long vendettas between powerful families and stuff. So it's not ideal. If you want the best quality of human life, I don't think it's a good idea not to have a group with monopoly on violence. But that group, if it's not under civilian control, that's that's its own sort of problems, you know. So I'm not I'm definitely not pro tyranny, but I don't think anarchism works in the real space. And there was this thing that stuck with me. Someone told about this. I think it's something sociology or something, that there were game theoretical simulations on how groups uh, without sanctions just can't deal with bad actors, you know, can't deal with non-cooperative actors. It's not working out in game theory, and it's probably not working out in human civilization either. Maybe very small communities. You know, it's not working out in the grand scale. There will always be bad apples. There will always be like 10% sociopaths in the human population, and they have great uses, by the way. That the sociopaths and psychopaths of mankind, uh, in certain situations, are the most efficient defense we have. But to keep them in check is really difficult in good times. So the other thing the state does is it provides equality before law. You know, that's what it does.
It provides
Because
what? Sorry.
equality before law for the
Yes.
individual. If you have many groups vying for power, then there is no equality before law, because if one group protects someone who committed a crime, then the other group cannot punish him without going to war. And I don't think the whole thing I wish we could do without the state. I really wish. But no matter what you try, eventually it will look like a state, I think. No matter how you try to set rules of conduct, it will emerge a state. So yeah, there could be many forms of states, and one could be more limited than the other, and it always goes to being overbearing and unbearable, and this nanny state that we have going right now, and it's getting worse. So I don't like that. I don't like that. I just don't think that fundamentally we can do away with the state. And there are also interesting things about time preference. You know, in a system with no laws and no regulations and fully free market, because those who have high time preference and want immediate profitability can cause a great deal of problems for everyone later on. There is this problem also. So environmental impact of whatever operation he's throwing money at to get rich quick, you know, and then we get to stuff where freedom really clashes with what is good for society, like drugs, because if it was only impacting the individual, I would be fully pro-choice and everything. But drugs enable a lot of exploitation, even slavery. You can lure or force someone into slavery with drugs. And in a free market where there are no rules about selling crack or heroin or whatever by pharma companies, you know, no regulation, just sell what sells best. that is nightmarish, really. So a small group of humans could literally enslave cities, and with a little bit of violence, coercion, and even just by luring them into this trap. And so I do believe that the best for mankind is to have some rules. Full-on anarchism just unworkable in the real space. However, in the cyberspace, where physical harm can't really come to you, you know, so that's a different story. I think I'm an anarchist in the cyberspace. I don't think we need the state. We have the nuclear weapons of the cyberspace as individuals. Everyone has the nuclear weapons, and that's really mathematics and random numbers, right? That is the most powerful thing in the cyberspace. And this information asymmetry allows us to be really sovereign in the cyberspace, and I just absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Right. So this is where I come back to the Bitcoin ethos, and this is my point of connect to the whole thing. And also, just quickly, it's interesting that I think the best economic system in the debate of, you know, capitalism and communism and everything in between, I think it's a matter of scale. So, like,
What do you mean by that?
Capitalism really scales, and communism is probably the best system when you are in a family unit, you know, because if you solely make kids so that you can minimize your cost and maximize your gains on them, that is a horrible family. That I don't think any human should be raised like that, right? So communism is where you are getting what you need and not what you not the volume that you produce, right? So communism in the family is, I think, self-evidently the best system. And probably in tribal settings, you know, tribes, small tribes, 50, 100 people tops, socialism really works well because in hard times, the entire tribe is stronger if many of them survives, right? So banding together and protecting each other and helping each other and being really social is an advantageous strategy. I think it evolved with mankind based on the size of the usual populations, tribes, families, clans, whatever. That for the majority of the time, where before agriculture and the big cities, right? That's where problems started in certain respects, that we scaled up our society big time with agriculture, and social capitalism, I think it scales up to nation states very well. It's probably best suited to city states. You know, a medieval city state has to have some big defensive projects. Not everyone can build a castle, and but inside that protective alliance or contract or whatever, capitalism works best. It doesn't require much meddling. You know, free market capitalism, free price discovery works very well. Of course, they had guilds and whatever, so it was not perfectly free and not perfectly efficient, and there were all sorts of problems with the practical implementations, but they worked rather well, I think. So social capitalism is city states to nation states. It works well. And corporate capitalism really scales up to multinational federations or unions. And that's the best point. So I don't think communism or anything else works in a multinational setting, obviously. And free market capitalism probably scales up to galactic empires trading with each other. So it's scaling. I think that when you gravitate towards capitalism, it really scales up. And that's why I like it, because the incentives are very clear. You know, it basically, capitalism only expects you to observe your own self-interest deep down, right? That's the basis of cooperation, that we can all extract more value from the system if we observe our self-interest and cooperate from that, and that's great. And Bitcoin, when I first got to know it, it just shined very well with this. You know, the miners, the only expected from the miners was to observe their own self-interest and not cooperate beyond that, what the protocol requires. If you think about it, if the hash power is distributed enough, and the miners don't have any communication aside from what happens in the blockchain, then we know that the system will be secure.
Right.
And we will get back to this later. And one more thing, I recently really had I don't know, another lightning strike moment few years ago, where I realized that representative democracy is a failure, right? So even though we have to have some system, but we see what they are doing to the economy, and people like to blame the Fed Reserve and central banks and whatever, but they are not making the rules. They are not making the rules. Representative democracy is a system where something is promised to you, you cast your vote, and whoever gets elected cannot be held responsible largely. Just can't be held responsible if they betray your contract, really. There are no sanctions. And to get back, in Bitcoin, the sanctions are immediate. If you break contract, the sanctions are immediate. You are going to lose money, or at least not get what you want. In representative democracy, you can get away with promising whatever the people want to hear and then do the complete opposite. Generally, I know there are some mechanisms and exceptions, and there are some politicians with spine who actually resign when they become unpopular. That can happen, you know. But I don't think it's the main. And I think lately it really changed to just saying whatever you want and not take responsibility for anything. So that's a problem for me. And also because the entire system is not visible and auditable for the common people, and there are no sanctions, it just breeds corruption, right? So almost any system breeds corruption, by the way. Almost any way, human society. I think a lot of people, when they find this, that democracy can really build up a lot in this lobbying, cronyism, corruption. They think Maybe past systems were better. I don't think they were better, right? So Nazi Germany was basically one of the most corrupt systems in the planet, and they started out with the promise that they will eliminate corruption, right? So no, corruption is human nature. It's human nature, and it stems from not being held to account immediately. Time preference, again, if we get back to it. So high time preference is human nature, and the incentives are wrong. The incentive structure is wrong, I think. And really, I did not arrive to this conclusion until I get further into what Bitcoin does and how it remains secure and how it provides value for us. So it all ties back. So representative democracy thrives on the fiat system, really. They work very well with each other because of the overspending. You know, the big vanity projects are the best to steal from, extract value from, and it's public money, not their own money. Politicians are not building bridges from their own money. They are building bridges from your money. But the companies that build the bridges can be their companies or their friends, whatever. So it extracts value from everyone, and and of course this whole money printing is just a consequence. Right? It's not the cause; it's the consequence of overspending and these social projects that a country not necessarily can afford. But it would be really hard to have these projects, you know, on any different basis than what we have today as state. You know, nobody can build a bridge or a highway across the country or whatever. Almost nobody, right? Maybe Elon Musk would. He can build a spaceport. So, but he didn't get where he is without a bit of cronyism and whatever, you know, and a lot of public money went into that. So let's not make him too big
Yes.
of a hero here. So he's part of this system that is extracting value from everyone, and Bitcoiners realize that Bitcoin is an out, right? So we know that for us personally, it is a possible out. It's not certain, there are risks, but the rewards are probably proportional to the risks. So I arrived to the conclusion that the only way out and only way forward as a civilization, I don't really think we can do this. I don't believe in that we can do this, but I think we should do this, is implement a more direct democracy. And implementing a more direct democracy is basically replacing voting, you know, periodic voting, replacing with a public key. You put a public key into an envelope, you put it into the urn, that's your identity. They can check your eligibility when you enter the room, you know, where you used to vote for a person who can betray you. Now you put in your public key, and you can verify if your public key has been registered, and you can raise hell if your public key has not been registered. So a crypto system, and there are degrees of anonymity, you know, in the crypto sphere. Crypto system allows you to cast your vote completely anonymously, and cast your vote on anything, any small detail. But you can, if you don't want to, you can also delegate your voting power to someone. You can delegate to your representative. He could get direct benefit from how many people he represents, and it can change in a matter of seconds if he does or says something that is betrayal of this trust. And so I don't want to get into a very great detail because probably not the best system that I figured out for this, and it's not that interesting. But I came to the conclusion that we should really try this. We should really try at least being able to sanction immediately and stop bad laws like this infrastructure bill. You know, here is this infrastructure bill, and huge amounts of political clout is just trying to steamroll it into place, and people are really upset about this. And if you had a system where you could immediately remove your support from a representative that betrays you and tries to push on you something that you really don't want, I think we would live in a different world. That is one thing that I want to deal with long term, not immediately, but I really would like to undertake a project where we change democracy for the better. We fix democracy, if you wish, and by that, uh, making better incentives. Right. That's all I want. Making better incentives for the system to correct itself.
Right.
And I don't want to rant more about politics. I think I'm done with that. A tiny
Wait,
little
wait.
thing.
Okay, yeah, because I've got
No,
like
go ahead.
a notes full of stuff, like in response to each. So remember where you want to go. I think it's probably a good idea if like I sort
All
of come
right.
in now. So
All right.
earlier on you're speaking about proof of work and excuse me, how society uses proof of work. It's centuries old, and I think it's quite good. In this, a point I wanted to raise is that with Bitcoin, it's like we normally you would have like art dealers and art verify, people who've got masters or PhDs in art to be able to verify art. But in this situation, we just like got a millisecond or nanosecond a verification of a crypto hash.
Yes.
So we're able to very, very quickly verify this, and it can be completely remote too. So this takes proof of work and proof of work in the meat space and just puts it on steroids. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, because it's automatic.
Yeah.
You can finally, for the first time in our civilization or timeline, you can automate proof of work, because there is no way that the software could tell the authenticity of a painting, or if it's a
Yeah.
good and valuable piece for mankind.
Yeah.
I mean, you can try, but I think you would get interesting results.
But I mean, I think it's so powerful because, for example, on my Bitcoin node, I can just in my Nix script, I can just say, reindex equals 1. So that means when I restart my Bitcoin node, it's going to go through the entire history
Yes.
of Bitcoin and just check everything. You see what I mean? It's like, and I'm still here busy picking my nose. You see, look how hard work I am. Well, thanks to the developers and the people, the Bitcoin developers who implemented that. You see what I mean?
Yes.
But on my behalf, it's just waiting, and I'm able to verify the entire history. It's fantastic.
Yes. But
So
I
yeah.
will come back to this later, because I don't think this will be sustainable, but it is quite nice and good, and
Yeah. So now, and then you spoke of well, you mentioned about the data dissemination stuff, and that's where I spoke about. I actually have implemented that networking protocol whereby your identity is the public key, and
yes,
it removes the host abstraction. So when you want to get your data, when I want to get your data, I don't go to a host because there's an indirection to get to the
removes
data.
authority. Really, authority is trust, and authority is what gets removed.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, pretty much, yeah. So what happens is that I get your data directly,
Yes,
and as a result, it's like no longer do I need to rely on Jack Dorsey or Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg or any of these other
yes,
actors and agents to get the data or verify the data because I'm connecting to Facebook.com or Amazon. Etc.
yes.
I just have your public key and I can just immediately verify. And if one character is wrong, I know that this data is compromised.
Yes.
So, so,
And
so
it immediately allows you to Diffie-Hellman with each other. So or just send someone a message
but
only he
that's
can read it.
but that's exactly it. It's like Diffie-Hellman is built into the networking protocol.
Yes.
It's built. It. In fact, if any node along the way checks this and it says, hey, sorry, fail. Well, I mean, Diffie-Hellman is a different thing, but I'm talking about the integrity of the data. It just
Yeah.
won't
When
lose
when when,
any.
when I watched you talk about this, it really just exploded in my head. Just a few words, and I understood that this is truly the way. I had not thought it in this respect, because I know that humans have a difficulty to parse pub keys or pub key hashes, right? we have an inherent difficulty to verify, read, or whatever, compare these things. So that is why domain name system exists. Because,
Exactly.
but Bitcoin never had domain names, right? It always, and it works. People use it, somehow manage to use it.
Yeah, it did have Namecoin. Namecoin as a merge mind, which was kind of interesting. I think that project's still valid. It could be put on a side chain, and you could, for example, associate your public key with a like for example,
Yes,
Moonsettler. You see what I
yes,
mean?
but what is the chance that if I wanted to do that, it would not be taken and I would not be extorted a bunch of money because it's an intelligible English word?
Fair.
That's my problem. My problem, I arrived to the same conclusion that we could have distributed phone books or whatever, distributed directories, yes, distributed
Yeah.
hash tables, distributed directories, but uh, for example, you can have very good distributed hash tables for IP addresses or Tor addresses from your public key because that you own. Nobody can take it from you, register it away from you. You have another way of ownership, right? And
Right.
the entire domain name system is really just that proof of ownership.
Proof. Yeah.
And even with domain names, people registered words. It was a big thing. People registered words and acronyms and whatever they thought will be valuable in the heroic age of the soul, and try to extort money from those that would need it later. And I really don't want to see that in crypto.
No, I know. Yeah, I think it'll definitely happen if there's some sort of another sort of name, domain name
Yes,
thing. But then the economists would say, yeah, well, it's intellectual property. It's like
yes.
it's.
But if you just go to public keys, then you can
I
generate
agree.
your public key for free. And
Yeah.
yes, it's it's very hard to visually identify a public key.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even tricks like when you just I don't know, translate a pub key hash to emojis or whatever, which is a great way to confirm that you did not make a mistake. But churning a public key is probably too free, too cheap for this to work for the human mind, not to make a mistake. So
But that's how
it's
I've
really just a
designed it,
public.
eh? I want it so that if you are a WikiLeaks, if you are look, the whole inspiration for me designing this network was watching the trials and tribulations of what WikiLeaks went through. You see, like how do you take data and publish it on a network, and then fucking take your key and then like put it in a bag and then get on a train and then go to some other remote part of the world and your data is still up. You see what I mean?
Yes, on your
So
data. Yes,
and so that's basically yeah, that's you want to be able to the name coin layer is just a convenience abstraction. You can still operate and use the system without it and just pure raw public key. Totally fine.
yes.
It's
And
designed
I
that way.
think we should go really just because of this. We should go that direction because
Yeah.
someone will try to extract value. Someone will try to hold good names hostage, and they
Yeah.
can do it for practically free. But like I said, the human mind does not like pubkey hashes so much.
Sure.
That is a problem.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and yeah, when you talked about it, like I said, I really liked it when you mentioned this. That the answer is the pubkey, and
Yeah.
I think about. I recently started experimenting with replacing any centralized service I have with more decentralized services, especially the private chat, voice chat.
Yeah.
But
This
and
is the process I want to go through too. I want to
yes,
start sort of creating a little community of people using this networking protocol and sort of go step by step by step by
yes,
step by step.
and
Replace like things like SSH and all.
again, yes, and Matrix, matrix.org is trying to make it more decentralized, but your identity is still centralized, and for very good reason. Like we talked about it, if you don't have this layer of already established ownership to fall back on, then it's too easy to impersonate someone, or if you make it a property, a tradable property, to extract value from it. This is the two opposing end that you have. And I was thinking that yes, the domain name structure that we have is really bad, right? So we already used to having addresses like bank account and other addresses that we cannot derive from other information. It's just code. You have to copy and paste it, or read the barcode or whatever. We are already used to it. It's just a tiny bit worse with pubkey hashes. Not much, but a bit worse. It's less readable, but I think we could get used to it. Humans are adaptable, and I think we can get used to parse these things better. And like I said, there are tricks to do to identify mistakes. Is emoji trick or something that we really and I think Matrix is stuck halfway. Where your identity is centrally verified.
Yeah.
And I was a bit bummed out about that. Earlier, I tried to do darknet projects. Darknet. I don't know if you are familiar with Waste.
With what?
Waste. It's a client, a darknet client. It's a dev project.
WASTE?
Yes.
No, I'm not familiar.
All right, whatever. But I really liked it.
Explain it to me. Introduce it to me, please.
It just used the shared secret. It was very primitive. It used the shared secret to form a network.
Yeah.
And it also used the technique of obfuscating traffic from traffic analysis by
stenographically embedding it into existing protocols?
No. It just it made a non-identifiable handshake. Try to make a non-identifiable handshake, and then it just filled out the blanks with random noise. I think it's called. I don't get the word, but it basically filled up your bandwidth with noise. So traffic analysis was not possible. There are downsides to this, but for chat application purposes in a close knit group, it actually worked. And years later, I was surprised to find that university campuses that filter the traffic heavily are still using it to share music, to share MP3 files because they are small, and it's illegal to file share on a lot of university campuses. And there was demand for client and protocol updates. It was awfully small, whatever. And so I love that project. And later on, I tried to do a new implementation from the ground up. I tried to make it better from every which way, like a lot of shitcoin projects tried to do with Bitcoin. Yeah. Like redesign from the ground up. It was a pretty ambitious project, and I think I did a decent job. I did a decent job at implementing a good overall networking protocol for this, and it did everything that Waste could. And I was at the verge where I could make some decent, efficient routing and not have a broadcast network. And then I found out that I was completely stupid. I did it wrong.
Why?
Because VPNs have just much better utility. You can use VPNs, virtual private networks.
I understand, but why do you say go into it? Why do you say it's
so you can do everything on a VPN. You can only do in my client what I programmed into it. You can chat, you can voice chat, you can video chat, but you are stuck with my implementation. So with a virtual private network that is a peer-to-peer virtual private network, it's just better. You can play games, you can use whatever apps that use TCP, IP. So I realized that I made a serious mistake, and this is not how I should have done it from the start. Right. But I have not found at the time a good open source virtual private network implementation that I would like to use. I have found closed source versions of things that did exactly what I wanted, that are perfect in their in their capture of the use case and the value, but they were closed source. It's an abomination for cryptography and security to use closed source software. That's just not good. And so I was pretty bummed out, and I abandoned my project. But I loved that. I love to think about that and tinker with it and experiment with it. So that was good.
It's quite interesting you say that, because one of the side projects, not on the critical path, but would actually add huge benefit, is to layer on or create an application which implements a VPN over my networking protocol. Do you see what I mean?
Wow.
So it would be completely open source and totally peer-to-peer.
I would love to try that. I think I would love to.
Sorry? Well, I haven't implemented that. I mean, I've just done the networking protocol. It's just I need some legroom and some time to do to think about the VPN stuff. Implementing the network adapter. It's just a shitload of work. You got to make it support for Windows, Linux, and Mac, and you got a whole bunch of other shitty stuff to do. And which is kind of, I mean, the networking protocol just itself is really shitty. It's really hard and annoying. But anyway, I want to get back to the concept of the identity.
Driver development, of course, you have to put in. And the
driver
development and the operating systems just get changes in how the drivers are implemented. And to maintain a project like that for multi-platform is just staggering amount of work for a human, if it's possible.
Yeah. I mean, that would be like it could even be a separate business. But the thing is that like it would be all peer-to-peer. Anyway, I'd have to get the economic model inside the networking protocol, and what would happen is that if you get the networking protocol right, I mean the economic model for the networking protocol right, using Bitcoin, then what would happen is that like you as a node operator, you might be able to earn money just by routing other people's data. You see what I mean? So you basically remove the concept of an ISP, and the ISP is the main sort of like ally towards the state. Can I say? The state just needs to knock on the ISP's door. To me, the ISP
they don't need to knock on the door. They are already in. From what I know from a friend who is involved in a smallish ISP, they are already in. So it's not something that they have to knock at most parts of the world. There might be decent countries where you need a curtain. There might be. I don't think there are, but would be wrong.
No, sure. I mean, I'm just using. It's an implementation. We know it is. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. And it's the same thing. Like the ISP is exactly the same thing, almost exactly the same thing as a data dissemination monopoly. So this networking protocol actually solves both of those problems. It's designed to solve both of those problems. So. Yeah, anyway, but one thing one can actually look at is using Keybase. Do you know Keybase?
No.
Interesting. So Keybase uses the idea of like, okay, so your identity is associated with, this is why I like Keybase. Keybase, your identity is associated with a key pair, not with like your mobile phone number or email address or some shit like that. But what it does do is it says, okay, like I will post some sort of like a cryptographic material on like Twitter, mytwitter.com or my Facebook or my Hacker News, for example, and then you can have a series, or maybe even post for example, Bitcoin key or something like that address. If you want to lose your identity,
and then the Bitcoin address just for this.
Yeah, exactly. And then what will happen is that identity is basically a piece of information that accretes over time with more information that adds to it. So so basically that's how Keybase did it. And then what you can do is you can say like, okay, I know that this is Moonsettler because all this key is associated with Moonsettler because his Twitter's got it, his Facebook's got it, all of the different other identities or networks have got it. But the thing is that like that doesn't necessarily work if you imagine a world whereby everything revolves around the key. You see it, like imagine all those networks which just get, use the same key to do that. So I don't know how you would implement a Keybase kind of concept. I don't think you would. I don't think
yes, and there is
you would just
this other thing that Plan B was having a bit of problems. You know who Plan B is, I think.
Of course.
So he had a bit of a problem with impersonators, right? And
sure.
I didn't even could think of a simple cryptographic solution to this because it costs nothing to impersonate someone, almost nothing, and 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 distributed reputation networks are so trivially built, for free basically, and that's a big part of my problem with a lot of shitcoin projects. Right? It has no cost to impersonate, to build your own reputation network that is complete bullshit. and
create a nice little Sybil attack there, right?
Yes, so I thought I could just quickly find some smart cryptographic solution to this, but it all falls back to that unless you associate your identity to a public key that you can sign with, you are fucked.
Yeah.
So that and I really wanted to solve this, and I would like if someone could solve it, but it always comes back to this, and that's why I really liked what you said. It really reinforced and ticked everything to place that we need to deal with public keys, public key hashes, whatever. Bitcoin address if you want. It's the same thing. It's a public key hash. You can sign and verify it, and
right.
Twitter can actually easily put a tick near your name if your displayed Bitcoin address has a signed message with your handle, or you signed your handle with your with that address, But I mean, and if someone wants to impersonate you, he has to use another address, and if it's part of your brand, if your Bitcoin address is part of your brand, and you really don't have to use it for anything, it can be a virgin address.
Yeah.
So if it's part of your brand, they can't do anything to impersonate that. But if you are known as Plan B and you have an avatar and whatever, this is the other problem I have with NFTs. It's visually impossible to identify an NFT. It's complete bullshit. You can't. So no, they can just make slight changes to the brand, and you wouldn't be able to tell who is the real Plan B, who is the guy who has 11 million more followers and looks more real, has more verifications, and whatever than the real Plan B, and almost the exact same thing, and he copies everything that the guy posts and inserts random BS about how to get tips on his Telegram or whatever. It's a losing battle if you try.
Yeah.
Of course, centralized solutions like Twitter are somewhat workable, but I absolutely hate them. And I don't want to depend on central authority for identity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, we already understand the crypto mechanisms, and just the key pair and maybe a hardware, hardware dongle sort of thing. Like I was like, I've got this little watch over here. It's like it's a paper ink thing, and the idea is to try to make this little thing hold the key for my networking protocol. I don't know. Some people are trolling me about it. Like I think they think it's a dumb idea. I think it's all right. Anyway, I'm just having fun. I'm just having fun doing it. So
yeah. Have fun. Just don't lose money.
No. Okay, so what else? Oh, now, during the discussion, you mentioned about the monopoly on violence.
Yes.
And like that monopoly on violence, basically you hand over essentially your right to do violence to a single entity, and then you expect them to not become tyrannical, right?
Yes, that's the problem. Yes, and you expect them to take away the violence from everyone else as an option.
Right.
That's the main point. So if you give up your right to be violent, then you expect everyone else to give up the right to be violent, and the state has to be violent because what other sanction you have if someone breaks the rules, right?
Exactly.
What other thing you can do? And as long as the state can overwhelm every actor with violence, like there is a gang that goes around armored MRAPs and machine guns, right? What can you do as an individual? Nothing. But the state, yeah, it's a hellfire missile. Bye bye. So it's a different scale of things, and I think it just works, and I don't have a better system. So
Yeah. So the main issue that I want to discuss now is like what happens when the system becomes tyrannical, right? Like what happens when
yeah,
the entity that you hand over your so-called violence
yeah,
quota to starts to use that shit on you for like extorting money and etc. out of you. So now during a previous Indaba, dude, I really appreciate these Indabas. Like for example, this conversation that we're having now, it's just like it exposed to so many interesting ideas. The discussion I had with Robin Hanson, he came up with the concept of a vouching system. So it's best that you watch it yourself. He does a better description of it. He's probably explained it to many people, and he's not going to butcher it. He's not going to butcher the description like what I'm about to do. So basically, he says he draws two circles, circle around what he will change and what he won't change. So basically, the legal system, how they create laws and how they punish laws, etc. How they create laws is not going to be changed. How he is going to be changed is how you actually find, the troublemakers. So now, he says that, like for example, back in the old days in America, they used to have a system whereby there was like the sheriff and the jailer, right, and bounty hunters, and they would go out and they would find people with a price on their head, right, and then they would bring them back, and then the bounty hunter would get paid, and maybe the person would hang, right, or do jail time or do something like that. So basically, that's the same system to bring back in, and we have a similar sort of system in the form of like insurance, car insurance, right? The insurance company is the entity that vouches for you, and they have a pot of money. So if you break the law, you you destroy somebody else's property, then the money would come from their pot of money, and then pay off the people that would damaged or injured in the incident.
if it's property damage,
Right.
it's
Okay.
probably
So,
right.
but now you can extend it to, for example, like let's say you decide to go. Now, I won't. So just hang on. Let me keep going. So his idea is that you extend this to basically everything in everyday life. So you can still have all the laws of the nation around you, but what happens is that you introduce the concept of a bounty hunter system. So and essentially what will happen is that and the vouching system. So you, Moonsettler, would need to find somebody who's got, and the only requirement to be a voucher is that you've got money. So a voucher would say, okay, you pay me X amount of money per month, and and basically, if you commit any crimes or whatnot, if you're low risk, then it'll be lower prices. If you're high risk, then obviously you're going to pay higher premiums. And and like if you rape and murder, then I need to pay out high amounts of money for you, basically, to the government. And so what happens then is that this same bounty system works within the police force. So that means the police will be doing bounty hunting on fellow police officers. So if any police officer starts, going against the law or something, where they sort of back each other up, the police will say, "Pull you in. I got you. I've got evidence that you did all this," and they're going to get paid out. Again, the way I described it kind of sounds a little bit lame, but he does a better. Robin Hanson does a much better explanation of it.
If you shoot a link, I will watch it. And
I'll give you a link with the time in it, and you can hear it.
I will watch it. It sounds really interesting to put a price tag on physical harm.
Right, exactly.
So long they are vandalizing my car, I'm okay with this. Probably he vandalizes my car, but if it's a family member, you are not okay with this, right? So There is interesting. I find it interesting, yes, and like I said, I wish I could do away with the state. And there is something very romantic about this whole bounty hunter thing, and I think in the US they still have some bail enforcement thing
I think
going on in certain
isn't that for
states.
loans or loan sharks, right? Isn't that for loan
I
sharks?
think if you skip bail, you run
Right.
away from the trial, then they can come after you and they can arrest
Yeah.
you. And basically doing the police's work is just based on economic
Right.
principles. So it is similar, and I find it an interesting concept. And I
Yeah.
think really it has a certain romanticism to it, or whatever. So it's fun to contemplate and think about it, and maybe
Yeah.
watch TV series about it. I don't know. I'm
Well,
actually
just watch.
fine.
Yeah.
Sorry, please go.
Oh no, I was just going to say, like, just watch Robin Hansen's description of it, and then probably you'll get a better idea and more material to think about. What else? So yeah, like I just mentioned drugs in Holland. So for example, you're talking about drugs overrunning a country, and like a small group of actors which might manufacture some really high potential drugs which could subvert an entire city, and then with a little bit of force. But in the situation of Holland, they've got a pretty good example where all law drugs, I think even hard drugs, are legalized, and yet their prisons are empty. So it's kind of like I don't know, maybe it's,
Yes, that's interesting, but I think it has certain drugs. Certain drugs have too much potential for creating,
certainly, yeah.
and certain drugs may be purely recreational, but even them, when they form an addictive behavior, an addiction form, the individual can start to work as a foreign body in the family, and start to make their life really miserable with this behavior, and so a lot of inhibitions go down, a lot of even with soft drugs, I think, and even with not drugs that can literally enslave you, because we know there are drugs like that,
There
but
are.
but even with drugs that can't literally enslave you, it can still do significant amount of harm.
Yeah.
So I would be careful. I'm from my part, I don't like anyone telling me what I take and what I don't take. I don't like
Sure.
that. I believe in free market and free choice and free responsibility, but I know there is a line here that is not clearly defined, that just completely turns everything to shit.
Yeah. Well, I think the rationale behind Holland legalizing hard drugs is that like hard drugs might be associated with, for example, like needles. So they say, well, okay, then what we will do is we know it's damaging, so we'll reduce the damage by saying, okay, well, the state will issue clean needles for you. So
Yeah.
and make it more approachable for you to actually get support and help instead of running away into these corners where you're sharing dirty needles with people. You can go out and you got an issue, you got a problem, but you can still go there. You can go get the needles, and then while you get the needles or something like that, you might be exposed to somebody or some entity which might say, "Come sit down. You need food,"
Yes, but
etc.
decriminalizing the users is not the same as
I
decriminalizing the
see.
producers and the
Fair.
spreaders and those that extract value from this, because most likely, if you are a hard drug user, you are going to wreck your life.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
like nothing else will matter. Your entire life will go to shit, and you will
Yeah.
end up homeless, and your health will be broken, and your life literally just pissed away in 5 years. There is a very great, probably, I think we all know stories like that, right?
Sure.
And there are people who massively profit from this, and
Yeah.
if you are arguing that this should be legal, I can't
I
I
don't know.
can't
Maybe
say
not.
that.
I don't know.
I can't support that, with a blanket approval. I can't. On the other hand,
But then,
if
where do you draw
you,
the line? For example, big pharmacy. Where do you draw that line?
yeah, so big pharmacy has a lot of red tape and hoops to jump through to produce and distribute drugs, and it's all very, very
So,
tractable and
does the
everything.
crime element, right? Because they've
I
got
don't
red
know.
tape of the government trying to avoid
Yeah,
that.
but it's different, because it doesn't have the quality assurance. It doesn't have the good pharmaceutical manufacturing process that is enforced on a pharma quantity. You have no idea what's in the thing you put.
So what?
A lot
A
of people
pure opiate versus an impure opiate? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, anything can. You are getting shit from the state. You don't know what you are shooting, and a lot of people who are say anti-vaxxers now,
Yeah.
anti-vaccines, and they say
Yeah.
you don't know what's in that, are happily shooting shit in their veins that they buy on the street. I bet you there are a lot of people like that, and I just can't understand how you can be okay with something that you have no idea if the raw material was stored beside pesticides that are just neural poison, whatever. You don't know what happens. You don't know how it's processed. You don't know how it's spiked. You don't know anything.
Yeah.
And with traditional pharma and traditional pharma manufacturing recreational drugs, not only you would defund the criminal organizations, but you would put this level of quality control on the recreational drugs, and I think I would fully support that. I think that would be great.
Right.
But like I said, there is a non-clear line on which drugs are okay, because if you allow pharma companies to sell pure cocaine, let's say people are responsible adults, they don't abuse it, they don't overdo it, they don't get heart attacks, they just spike their life with a little bit of coke sometimes. But you can take baking soda, I think, and make crack cocaine out of it in like 5 minutes in some dirty basement. And then you can use that to literally enslave people. As far as I'm not an expert on drugs, but I think crack is like seriously addictive and seriously can like ruin a person in a matter of days. And and it just falls apart. I would like to argue for everyone just doing whatever they want, but it's hard.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. I hear you. I mean, it's a murky territory. It's a difficult territory.
Yes, and that's okay, because if we can discuss these things,
Yeah.
as a free society, we can discuss these things and maybe experiment with them a little bit,
Yeah.
and
So
and deal with the fallout and be honest about the results and whatever. Then we can work this thing out,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's going to require tolerance, patience, and the ability to converse, which one would, by just a casual glance of Twitter, it seems like tolerance and ability to converse has just gone down the tubes, especially with the woke, right?
Yes, and really, it seems like echo chambers are a big thing that are going on, and they seem to be self-organizing and self-reinforcing prisons for the
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah.
and it produces extreme views,
Yeah.
and a
And snowflakey
society
behavior.
where reality is fractured, right?
Yeah.
So reality is fractured between these echo chambers,
Yeah.
and it's weird to watch that even people, relatively smart people, can just go down rabbit holes that you are like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I don't want to name names, but some crypto YouTubers I follow, I just watch them completely go mental, right?
Dude,
Completely have
I know
a
what you mean.
life psychotic breakdown. So
I know what you mean, bro. I know what you mean. You're just like, oh my god, facepalm. Jesus fuck. What are you doing? Just
yes,
chill,
yes,
bro. It's
and
over
I think
something totally innocuous too. It's like something so small. And it's like, oh my god, just dude. When I was younger, my father and I did something like that. Basically, it's just young, naive teenage behavior. My father would be like, pull up your socks, do something, go get some responsibility. Go be responsible for something. Like go get a job or like that sort of thing. Like the old school way of doing it. And now it's like not cool if you're responsible about something. Oh Jesus.
I don't know. It's weird what's going on, and I really don't like it. And the other thing I don't like is I do, and this may sound tinfoil hatish, but I do think that there are powers taking serious advantage of this phenomenon, and
Oh, sure.
they don't even have to enforce a narrative. They just have to put out 100 different versions of an event, and the internet
Oh,
will go wild. And
oh,
most
sure.
people will just take the first thing that they hear, and their brain starts to work with it, and then just reject all other versions,
Yeah.
and then the rest is just social media, is just reinforcing and
Amplifies.
completing these amplifying
Yeah.
these things. And you have this, yes, when you put a microphone near a speaker,
Yeah.
that's what you
Yeah.
get.
Yeah. The feedback, the echo feedback, right?
Yes, yes. And,
So
and then you go deaf. Yeah.
yeah, so this is exactly another reason why I'm implementing this networking protocol, because to me these centralized entities like Twitter, Facebook, etc. They are just massive echo chambers, and they've got like psychologists on the background which are deliberately just understanding the psychology of things, like how to adjust and change your emotions just based on certain sequence of types of posts which your eyeballs get exposed to. You see, and this is kind of like a mass mind control kind of thing, right? So like, and as a result, you're gonna have these like swings of attitudes and shifting of changing, and you know what they say, the typical psychopath will go into an environment and deliberately kick up conflict, or make a cloud of conflict that's surrounding them, and they do that so that the psychopath can just basically sit there and hide there and then start leeching off the resources. You see what I mean? So it's like to me, it's like when I see this is just like kicking up a fuss about a whole bunch of stuff, about trivial things, basically trivial things, like
Yes.
and but behind the scenes, there will be somebody with their fingers, their hands in the pot of, well, busy controlling the printing press, as we can see with whatever the hell's going on there in the United
Yeah.
States. But to me, like, I'm not saying that is the case. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that, like,
Yeah.
whenever
I
I
see
see
it.
this pattern of behavior, it's like that's the first thing I look. I don't look at the chaos. To me, that's just like a false flag. I look okay, where's the important resources being extracted from this? Follow the money. No,
Yes. Yes.
that's
Yes.
my
And
attitude
and
there.
and the problem with this is all sides on a debate can say just follow the money and throw up completely contradicting and different versions of everything, and they can make, if they put in the time, very good arguments for that, build an entire reality around that, and so it's
Yeah.
I don't like this. I don't like this at all, but there is nothing I can do about it. I think at
Yeah.
the end of the day, it's human nature, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, you raise a good point there. Like, I don't know, but sometimes I do feel like these groups, they sort of spin off, and then they start saying, like, for example, like as I mentioned with Robin Hanson, it's like, the Bitcoin maximalist. Initially, it starts out, we say no, we're being an immune system for Bitcoin, but then what happens is when it reaches a point that it spins off far out enough that somebody will say, oh fuck all the shitcoins, and they say it just for the likes, then that's what happens. You've
Yeah,
already moved.
yes.
You've gone
Hey,
beyond.
hey, what do you think about Twitter adding Bitcoin tipping? Because for now we just had like whoring, and now we can have tip whoring.
Dude, I don't know. I don't know. These centralized, these Silicon Valley people, they're so disconnected. I mean, it's just. Look. These guys, they're I don't know. I'll let them. They'll play their gods. But what's going to happen is that these decentralized systems are just going to come in and eventually.
They always disappoint, you know. They are always find a way to say something nice about how they see Bitcoin as the soul of all whatever, and then end up doing something that is basically Casey bound and centralized.
That's exactly what I'm expecting out of this thing. I'm expecting these fellas to try to set up their little fiefdoms and like extract value from it. So,
but yes, that's the problem. That's their incentive at one part. If you put energy into something, you usually expect some return. And what better way to extract value than to centralize everything under your ass? But the other part is decentralization is hard,
truly,
like really, really, really hard. So
trustless decentralization.
yes,
That's hard.
that's what I mean. Because decentralization where you can't trust anything or can't verify anything, I don't know if it's worth anything. So
no, it is worth. Well, I suppose. Look, if you control the perimeter around the high performance cluster, then it is valuable to you. Then you see what I mean.
But that's not free. You have to put a lot of effort into that. I think it's
either trustless or or trusting decentralization. Both are difficult problems. Even more difficult trustless, and
Yes, and that is what is really useful to us too, because as we go forward and we reorganize our society and try to scale up our society, and hopefully one day we will try to scale up our society beyond a single planet.
Yeah. And okay, so some other points. Okay, you were discussing. Oh, you spoke about guilds and price fixing, and then communism is a small implementation of. Okay, so have you heard of liquid democracy?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay, so I'm quite impressed that you sort of like you hit on this idea or a sliding window between direct democracy and representative democracy. There's a concept called liquid democracy where there's a bunch of material. I mean, there's even implementations of this. Like little test groups have done that. That have actually created this concept where you can, sliding window of democracy. But then when I brought the subject up with Robin Hanson, he pulled the rug from underneath my feet, and I thought it was quite interesting. He said that right, you could take a random sample of the population. So, for example, if you get some sort of representative, you could take a random sample of a jury, for example, and then what would happen is that elected person just follows what the jury decides on, and you could change this jury, whatever the parameters of changing a liquid democracy sort of setup be, maybe once a year, once a month, it doesn't matter. But that and it's perfectly legal to do this. But that has not happened ever that we know of.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe I don't know. Like why hasn't it happened?
I
see what I mean?
I think there is two parts. I think people like celebrities. They like faces and personalities that they can rally behind. I think I see it everywhere. You don't have to force it. You don't have to force it. People will just pro or contra behind the people that are talked about and form camps and cheer.
Right.
So this is something that we somehow, and probably there is an evolutionary explanation for this, somewhere deeply buried in our prehistoric past. I don't know.
Right.
So and the people who really interest people are the psychopaths, sociopaths, whatever you want to call the charismatic monsters of society.
Yeah. No, it's interesting how they do that. They actually get you addicted to them.
Yes.
So they activate the same parts of the brain that like cocaine or something would do. Those psychopaths, they activate that. So you become addicted to the psychopath. You become addicted to the vision, the bullshit, the spin doctoring, the lies, all of that they spew.
Yes, and at the same time, people are fearful of the faceless masses. They distrustful and fearful of the faceless masses, and you can see this come swing around in the zombie and vampire movies. I did not make up this concept. It's well known that the charismatic monster is the vampire, and when people fear the leader of charisma and questionable morale is rising, then the vampire movies really ramp up. And when people are more fearful of the uncaring, stupid masses,
Yeah,
than
with pitchforks.
zombies, yes, then zombies are coming to, I don't know, Netflix. so so and I like vampire and zombie flicks. I have no problem with them. It's just interesting that we tend to like vampires more than zombies. I think by default.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? That's interesting thing you got going there. Well, anyway, so I think I've basically written down all the different things to that long, how can I say, like a foundation laying sequence that you laid before us, and that's sort of some responses. I think I get a pretty good understanding, or at least where you stand.
Yes. Would you like to hear briefly about my journey in Bitcoin? I don't know.
Oh, I would love to hear that. Yeah, be quite interesting.
All right. So I when I started my journey, really, I had nothing. I had debt. I had clothes with holes on. So I was really just before the start line, if you want, and that was an interesting time for me. And I first learned about Bitcoin in 2010. That's when I read the Bitcoin white paper. Sorry,
Right.
I try to speak louder. So I read it in 2010, and like I said, a lot of things just clicked in my head, and I really liked it, but I did not believe in it. I was not like, oh, this thing just going to. I knew it could change everything about human society, but I think you gather that I'm a bit skeptical about humanity and its ability to quickly just change and adopt new systems and get it right instead of getting it
Wow.
wrong a lot of times. So I did not thought that the Bitcoin revolution was sure, certain, or anything.
Mm.
And I really didn't had money to throw at it, right? So I was very low on my Maslow pyramid. I had to make sure that I am secure,
Mm.
and but I really loved Bitcoin, and what I loved about it most is I wanted to mine for a living. That was the first thing that I liked, that I could be more sovereign in my life. I did not have the full concept, but I wanted to be my own master. Always wanted to be my own master, and it seemed like such an interesting thing to do. But at the time, I had this theory that $10 was the fair price for Bitcoin based on the electric cost, and it seemed like the market was pricing it around $10. So I tried everything, and I had no way to set up a profitable business plan mining Bitcoin at $10, and so I really ended up concluding that you either had the hardware anyways, and you just paid for electricity, or you store the electricity and then you can invest in the hardware, or you just can't mine Bitcoin profitably. And that was my conclusion back then.
So, what you're saying is basically very similar to my playbook, except that I actually did mine it. I bought the what's it, the butterfly, the first butterfly ASIC. Well, first of all, I was mining with CPU, but then Jesus Christ, it was like nothing, you know.
I tried CPU mining. I know what you are talking about.
I was like, come on, let me get a Bitcoin. Oh, what the hell? So just my computer would just go, Jesus.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I bought the butterfly ASIC, and man, those guys just mined on my ASIC and then delivered like months and months later. So, but I managed to make enough money to pay back the ASIC. But by that stage, it was like mining. Man, mining. It's a fun game. It's a fun game, but Jesus, it's very cutthroat.
Yeah, the first I remember, because I got really excited about the voting. I felt like I couldn't run a GPU farm the size of a room at my home. That just not. So these ASICs came along, and I see that 10 months of waiting line for a product that is not even a prototype. you just you just can't get it. It's impossible, and people are killing each other for getting something that doesn't exist. And so I did not get into ASIC mining at that time, and so for some reason, when I first had savings, but I had to start worry about inflation, right? So the moment you have savings, the moment you are not living paycheck to paycheck but have some savings, then inflation should be one of your primary concerns. Like, how do I store and keep my value, right? And I still did not had the faith in Bitcoin that it will be $20,000 ever, or just thousand. I saw that it in the very heights of hysteria it can go to $100, but I didn't think that would last. And really, my concept of how Bitcoin price and mining and electric cost relate to each other was flawed. It was just wrong.
I agree. Mine too.
And that is one mistake. And the other mistake is that when I finally started to have savings and I saw how horrible opportunities I have to protect this in the traditional finance system, I was nobody, right? So yes, I had a choice to buy Bitcoin on Mt. Gox. And
did you get fucked by Mt. Gox?
No, I never ended up doing, because the traditional finance system is such a horrible thing that it would have taken 4 days of my money being in limbo. I would have to pay out of my ass. And really, even back then, I was fearful of trusting anyone with my money. I just wanted a very short window, like I'm going in with my money and coming in with my Bitcoin self-custody, and just a split second. Right? But we were talking about days or maybe weeks, and all sorts of problems, and I don't know how many. And the cost, like Bitcoin was stable, roughly stable at the period at $10, and it just didn't seem like smart to buy it for $11. You know, to pay $11 for Bitcoin. I mean, I can only sell it for 10 if I can sell it, but nobody around me uses Bitcoin. So who do I sell it to? I would have to go back and how the so.
And that was your second mistake.
Yes, that was my second mistake, that I actually ended up buying gold instead of Bitcoin. Oh my God, I listened to guys like Peter Schiff and Mike Maloney, and I really agreed with a lot of the things they said, but I also found holes in their conclusions. I think it was a bit of a sketchy, dodgy thing, but I was fine with just picking out the things I liked and just watching them, because it reinforced some of the things that I thought, and I could rage about other things where I think they were stupid about. And Mike Maloney's Hidden Secret of Money is a very good production. I think it's very entertaining. I like it. I like watching it. I like it, and I think he did a decent job on it, even though it's. There is some bullshit there. All right, so there is some serious bullshit there, and things don't really work that way. But still, it's nice to watch it. And so I follow these guys a bit, and ended up buying gold. But then that was a mistake. I mean, I almost immediately regretted it, because when I started. When you have something and you start to look out, all right, but how do I cash out with a profit? You realize a few things about premium, about taxes, and about all the bullshit that basically makes gold the worst investment I ever tried. And I even played with some high-yield internet Ponzi, whatever shits, just a tiny bit. So gold is even worse than that. All right, so it's bad, and So I never sold my gold. Really, there is no point anymore. It just there to remind me of my folly. Really, I look at it sometimes and I think how different my life could have been if I did not make this stupid mistake. But I don't want to shit on gold and gold bugs too much. I sometimes do that for trolling. I think they do see something that we see, just married to something that is not as smart, I think, but I could be wrong eventually. That's always in the card that they get the last laugh. so that was and I also had some doubts later on when Bitcoin started to get picked up, and there was a lot of chatter and noise about it being the real deal and the best investment ever, and it will be the money and everything else will go to shit. It started to pop up, and uh, from my understanding of modern monetary theory, and it was a system that looked working, right? So even when the doomsday happened and the bubble popped in 2000, I don't know, 8, 11, something. So even then and after that, it just seemed to be working. Not a single fuck was given, right? Some people lost
I
money.
was so angry about that. I was so angry about that. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah. And everybody knew what was happening is just stupid, right? It just
Yes.
plain stupid, and it kept on working. And so I had my doubts, and I was like, all right, maybe we think about money completely wrong. Maybe the actual numbers don't matter at all, and inflation is not such a big deal if we are looking at how we organize as a society and how we organize our work and effort and how we produce volume. Maybe fiat is not such a horrible thing, and it actually works. Evidently, it works, and the exact number doesn't matter. And I even entertained the idea that inflation is really was just a tax on stupid. But like I said, the opportunities are not equal, right? So poor people don't have good investment opportunities.
Yeah.
If you go to your bank and you have like a few $1,000 and you want to invest into stocks, in most countries, specific stocks or just the S&P 500, you can't. If you are really rich, oh, no problem. You get private banking services. You can invest in the good stuff. Even then, handling fees are raping you sometimes. So it's not like crypto, where that's the
A
other thing
thousand
I
bucks will buy you $1,000 of Bitcoin, man, and that's it.
yes,
You can scale all the way down and scale all the way up.
yes, exactly, and trace 24/7 and so on. I don't have to tell you the enormous difference, and I was starting to get into this, but when I started to have savings and started to worry about inflation, not much later I found I'm not sure if you are familiar with the blog Mr. Money Mustache. I think I pronounced it well. Mustache, like what's under your nose, a bit of hair.
Mustache.
Mustache. All right. So
Yeah.
Mr. Money Mustache, he turned into a weird cult leader, and he says a lot of bullshit about Bitcoin later. But his early blog posts about early retirement are really something that really changed my mind about how I view things, and started to think and calculate interest and everything else differently. So that was good. That I started to realize the power of the exponential and the compound interest and
Yeah.
how that works against you when you have debt and everything. It just started to click together. And I simultaneously realized that everything that is offered to me to protect me from inflation and draining the value of my work and my savings is just shit, pure shit. All right. So that I had to realize that gold as well is just not working out. I don't want to call
But
it shit, but
no,
I
no,
think
you're exactly right. But I mean, even traditional sort of like for example, property. Excuse me. Like when I was growing up, like my parents had a few other properties, and I recall, man, on the weekends, like my father was one of those kind of people, like like do it yourself, basically DIY, and I'm
yeah,
glad he was that way because a lot of those lessons sort of transitioned over to me. So I remember, Jesus, we would go off to these bloody properties and we would be painting them and fixing roofs and fixing toilets and fixing everything, because the tenants would just like destroy stuff. And well, that was supposed to be a store of value, but hell, man, it was a lot of work maintaining that shit, eh? And it's not like Bitcoin. Bitcoin, just leave it over there, It just gets, it's magic. It's fucking magic compared to property.
Yes,
magic.
All the suffering with Bitcoin is emotional. I think you know the meme about the crocodiles and pits and whatever that you have to go through hodling Bitcoin, but it's all mental.
right. And then one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. Yeah.
It's all mental, and the actual physical difficulty is nothing. And if you could exclude it from your mind and not look at the chart, it would actually take up very, very little time of your life. And that's probably the third mistake I made in the past, is that I actually started to watch Bitcoin price very closely the moment I invested in it for some reason.
Yeah. And then you lost money trading, right?
Yeah, of course. At first I was very good. But I was very happy with like 100% gains and very easily. And then when you sell Bitcoin at $1,000 and you watch it go to 20,000, and your not so bright friend invests in it at 10,000. When you saw it at 1,000, and you're like, oh no, this is insane! Don't you understand? This is a fucking bubble. and he made money on it much more than I. All right, so yeah, I went through all that phase. I think learned my lessons, learned hard lessons about how all my previous approaches about trying to determine a fair price for Bitcoin are complete bullshit and complete failures. And
I
totally
agree 100% with you, man. Jesus, hard lessons these were, fucking hard lessons.
Yes, but probably necessary, right? So people who get into the space now, I mean, we try to tell them, but until they experience it, they won't understand. So you have to.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I've got basically a simple recipe there. When people come into Bitcoin, I'm like, okay, just go in. Basically, you're going to buy and hold it for the rest of your life. Don't expect this to be a quick money making thing, because it's not. And avoid shitcoins. Avoid shitcoins.
Yeah. And DCA, the best advice I ever given to anyone is to DCA. But do you think I DCA? DCA, dollar cost.
Dollar cost averaging. That's the best advice too. Yeah, just sweep in your savings every month into Bitcoin. Chup.
I gave that advice to everyone and never took it. I always try to time the market because I don't know, I'm stupid, but whatever.
Yeah. No, DCA is the way to go, man.
Yes, it's very hard. I think it's very hard because the FOMO. People say fear and greed what moves the market, but it's actually probably instead of greed, it's FOMO, and that's another fear. So fear and fear. It's the entire market is neurotic and fully moved by fear. That's probably the best way to view it, especially when it comes to crypto.
Well, fear of missing out. That's greed, right? That's greed.
Yeah, but not necessarily. So like
it's the same thing, right?
I think greed could be wanting to take from others and not wanting others to have it. Like when a dog tries to eat all the food from all the other dogs. but fear of missing out is like in a fair system where you have the opportunity and you will bang your head into the wall later if you did not take it. So I don't think it's exactly the same thing, but
yeah.
All right.
That's true.
I tried leverage trading to pass the time. At least I got one thing right. I knew no shit coins and I have to hodl. I have to hodl most of my Bitcoins. I knew that by 2015, 2016. It's I at least in 2018 I really knew it. Let's just say. I knew self-custody is very important, and I knew that from the get-go. So a tiny bit, because it's so frustrating to watch the price go down and up and make barely any gains that get it wiped out the next day. So I got into leverage trading as sort of an ego game. to partly decrease my frustration when the price goes down. I can short Bitcoin, I can stack sats. By shorting Bitcoin, I can get funding. It's a game. And if you only do it with an amount that will not kill your entire plan, I think it's fine. Probably not smart. That 90%, 95% of the people that do it will lose Bitcoins. It's absolutely guaranteed.
Yeah.
But if you really have to trade it, it's probably the best if you just do it with a little bit, and you are in a way protected. If you keep your entire stash on a centralized exchange, it's probably worse than if you trade any bit on a leveraged exchange. That's my personal, but it's not financial advice. You will lose your money.
Yeah,
it's even worse than losing money.
Yeah, no, I think I might have gone a step further than you. It's like, I think I've gone through the crucible of fucking fire to the point where it's just like, no, I just hold the Bitcoin. I just hold it.
Yeah.
I don't even fucking trade it, man. Because it's like, I don't even trade it.
If I lose anymore, I will never trade in my life.
Yeah, it's just those people. The thing is that those people out there thing is that, like, when I went through my trading stage, it was all consuming. All consuming.
I know.
And if you want to really, like, in the beginning, it was easy because there was a bunch of dumb fucks like me all on the exchanges, and it was just, people would say, let's pump and dump, and I didn't really participate in that because I could at least see that like, whoever's last on this one's got the bag, right? But yeah, I mean, it was just yeah.
It can basically almost ruin your life at the point where your loved ones are telling you that you either stop doing this stupid shit or you are out.
Pretty much.
Yeah. It's dangerous.
But also, it would impact on because I like to build things, right? And these things take time to build, and they take deep thought,
mental energy. Yes,
mental energy. And it just became to the point where I was just like, I don't want to allocate that mental energy to watching the stock price go up and down and when to time shit. When I'm actually more fulfilled by building these sorts of things, right?
Now, this is where I want to go. This is where I want to arrive, and the evil game was necessary for me a tiny bit because first I had some specific goals where I wanted to sell Bitcoin, but I arrived to the point where I think selling Bitcoin is just not a good idea. But bear markets are brutal. Bear markets are brutal, and I wanted to do something to feel good in bear markets. It's just for my mental health. But it's very, very hard. All right, it's very, very hard, and I had to pass the time because I had to arrive to a point in my life where I can really just say, I'm out. I'm not working. I want to do my own thing. I want to do the things that interest me. I want to be my own master, the master of my time. Sovereign in my time, and also in my money, hopefully. And to get there and really start to do the things you want, that's not an easy thing. At least for me, it was very much not easy. And somehow years passed, and I just sit on my stash, and it's hard doing nothing. And so for me, trading was a little bit of this evil game to help pass time. And
okay.
So all right, so cashing out has many problems, like I said, and I was entertaining the idea because it looks so easy when you look at the charts, where you should have shorted, where you should have gotten out. Right? It's the biggest fallacy. You look at the charts and you think you got this figure that everyone is stupid.
I got this, baby. I got this. And you're like, when it's actually, you're like, fuck, what's gonna happen?
Yes. So the most important thing, if someone really wants to do leverage trading, you have to control your emotions and control your leverage, and then you can be fine if you are disciplined and have a plan and
you have to be sober and have to make sure that you slept well and that you're peaceful. There's nothing going to bother you, and then you can because then you take on the attitude as like a single finger press can make me lose large amounts of money. So be the fuck awake.
Again, yeah, and it's so yes. All right, so it's not that important. I think we talk too much about trading. The point is,
Sure.
I'm at the point where I'm getting close to be the master of my own time, and probably trading will have to go, right? So like you said, if I want to do something productive with my time, I want to leave something behind in this world that matters, then I have to ditch this shit. It's not going to work, and I still haven't figured out how to improve my life quality without selling Bitcoin. That's an interesting thing to figure out. But whatever. And because I'm at the verge of really being completely free, and started really looking into how an individual can be the most sovereign in this world. A lot of things can play into this, like you keep moving, become a digital nomad, perhaps. That's hard to start for a lot of people or even contemplate, but it can help you a lot, and probably a lot of people, a lot of Bitcoiners will go this road and start trying this whole jurisdictional arbitrage thing and whatever. Basically, the states become a market. The regulation is the product, and you pick and choose. Pick and choose and pay with taxes if there are taxes. So it kind of changes a lot of things, I think. And I'm just getting into the process of trying to build a future for myself in my head, as well as trying to detach myself from my past life, and the way I did things. So here I am, and I am really exposed to Bitcoin, right? So not only I would like it to succeed, because I believe it provides value, even if it doesn't solve every fucking problem mankind has. As long as it can hold a gun to the temple of central bankers and bankers, just that, just a gun to their head, that if you go too far, will leave you in the fucking ditch, and doesn't even have to do away with them, just that. And I think it's worthwhile. I think it's worthwhile if you can do if you can do that, and that is what I like about Bitcoin, and that is why I don't like what's going on in the crypto space altogether. The infinite number and the infinite amount of shitcoins. Trading to parity to Bitcoin volatility and valuation, and not to zero. To me, that basically the only way to undo Satoshi's work, the only way to undo what he gave to mankind is to let shitcoins ride as an asset class with Bitcoin.
I agree.
And that's a problem. On the other hand, right, if you fully accept that the most important property of Bitcoin is it stores value and gets value through time, that is the most important. Of course, the ROI is really good. The return on interest is just really good right now because the risks are very high. People don't understand that the returns and the risks are going to be in a free market always proportional, mostly, because if not, then the free market will remove that inefficiency. So if anyone thinks that Bitcoin can give you 300% per year per annual on average without risks, I don't know what to say about that. That is completely insane. It's not how the world works.
Would you say 200%?
360% on average, I think.
But no, I think it's on average 200%. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But you disagree with that, right?
No, sometimes I use old arguments without updating my data. So it's possible that you are right about this. I don't know. But it's certainly not in the range of 10% or like 0.4% that you get on your bank account.
Wait, are you arguing against or for Bitcoin giving you 200 to 300%?
No, I'm saying that if it gives you that return, it has proportional risks, probably. I'm just saying that.
Yes.
So I think people who imagine Bitcoin is riskless are mentally challenged.
Just wait a second. Wait a second. Sorry. Yes, darling? Okay. Oh, you're just unplugging. Okay. Sorry. Just interrupted.
All right.
So you were saying?
Yes. So I'm just saying that if anyone thinks that Bitcoin can give you several hundreds of percents annual without risk, that's impossible. All right. You don't understand anything about the market. That's not possible. If the risks were really zero, then you would have
I think
already
this needs to
priced out.
change, eh? I think this needs to change, eh? Like if you look at the Sharpe ratio, which is what's it, ROI divided by risk or something like that. The Sharpe ratio of like if you compare it to get like all the different things, Bitcoin's the best. That means they're like the lowest risk and the highest ROI.
Yes. That is the other thing. I liked.
It's fucking crazy.
I don't particularly like what Anthony Pompilano is saying always, but when he said it's an asymmetric bet, that was what really put everything to place, because you don't have to bet everything on Bitcoin to be safe from inflation or to even make it. You can really compartmentalize your risk.
Yeah.
And you can still use this as an escape vehicle of sort. But
escape hatch, yeah.
But to pretend there are no risks is just retarded. I'm sorry.
No, well, okay, yeah, there definitely are risks.
Yes. But
especially,
I think it's better return than risk. I think that, because I'm into Bitcoin. I could say I'm a Bitcoiner. I'm not. I don't think I'm a Bitcoin maximalist anymore. I had a period like that, and the truth is there is this sobering, when you realize multiple things, like the narrative changes all the time of what Bitcoin is, and but for me the most important things was really always the most useful thing was the store of value property, right? That's what I really want, to be sovereign about my wealth and money.
Yeah, communicate that over time and space. Yeah.
Yes. That's. But so I used to say I can buy coffee with anything. I can buy coffee with Chuck E. Cheese tokens. I don't care, right? I don't care what I buy coffee with. I don't care. And I never had problem. Even when I experienced like 40% inflation annual or something like that, never had problem buying coffee. All right, the money is a hot potato in highly inflationary environment. You buy assets, you store your money in things that cannot be inflated, and money is still useful. It's still working. It's not something that mankind needs. It has too much money. It doesn't have too little money. It has too much money. Not. However, recently I've been this really serious regulatory overreach coming for Bitcoin, and this whole KYC thing was really not to my liking on centralized exchanges. And the next level is this whole KV and FATF-EU whatever thing that they try to basically attach your identity that they control, or even if they don't control in certain aspects, that could be worse, right? So distributed identity attached to your transactions could be worse than a centralized identity.
Yeah.
If done wrong, if you don't own your data, that's just worse.
Right.
So while something could be done about this, right? I have zero confidence that this will be done right. I have zero confidence, and my biggest problem with the whole KC thing is it's supposed to make criminals and terrorists unable to use the system, but they are the ones that will be willing to buy or extort KC. So it accomplishes nothing, but it's completely unfair to decent people and puts them at a real fucking risk of leaks and doxes. And and it does not give you any benefit whatsoever. It does not achieve its goals. It's impossible. And all it does is maintains an illusion of control at the price of you getting fucked. I'm sorry. And I hate it. I hate it. And it seems to be getting worse. It seems to be getting worse, and people don't care. People just cheer on for whatever stupid bullshit Michael Saylor is tweeting that day about cyber hornets and the goddess of truth and whatever philosophy majors can come up with who have no idea of what Bitcoin is and cryptography is. I see a lot of this, and it's so frustrated, so frustrating, So how Bitcoin is, how I see Bitcoin, what it is capable of currently, and what people are saying in Bitcoin Twitter, the rate of the development, the rate of how new features come out and activate and what impact they have, the increasing dogmatism about rejecting change, even evolutionary adaptive change, every change. I know.
Bingo.
So when I heard this argument, I'm not sure if I'm quoting right, but something about a cell will choose immortality if it's in a benevolent environment. If it found its place, its niche, it will choose immortality, and in a hostile environment, it will choose reproduction, and adaptation. That's the most important thing. Reproduction is a means to achieve evolutionary adaptation. Right. And if you look at nodes, just for the argument's sake, look at the nodes people run as organisms, and the code is the DNA. And if you try to cement this thing, try to make the DNA unchanging, and the environment changes and becomes more hostile, that organism is going to die. That is my evolutionary Darwinist approach. And other organisms that are willing to change, willing to adapt, will take its place, will displace it. It's I think if we can translate biology and whatever into this model, then we know for sure, because we have, I don't know, millions and billions of years of
right. I hear what you're saying. So your metaphor is that if Bitcoin, it doesn't become like an adapting sewer rat sort of thing that's able to handle all these sort of like different challenges and still survive, then and it becomes like a little bubble wrapped thing that everyone wants to protect and whatnot, then the shit coins will come by and eat Bitcoin's lunch.
Yes, it will be displaced if it's refusing to adopt and evolve. As mamas displace the dinosaurs.
Yeah. And also, like the amount of change that was coming into the Bitcoin code base was with a number of bips and whatnot, and the time taken for the bips to get implemented and then sunk into code was a lot shorter than what is happening now, and specifically the political kick-upness shit that was stirred up by original gangsters, OGs of Bitcoin, have made people, specifically those people who don't like conflict, more hesitant to actually do anything. So does this tie in at all with attitude and things that Bitcoin Core is adopting?
Yeah,
I mean, from my perspective, sorry to cut you off. From my perspective, it's like I was also involved with the Ethereum Classic community, and I can tell you something. It's like dealing with that community was kind of frustrating from a developer perspective, because they don't appreciate the work that goes into it and into like being the programmer. So that it's almost like they generally people feel like they can make these technical decisions when they don't have any foundation to make these decisions. In fact, 99% of the shitcoiners out there don't have any technical basis to make decisions that goes into things like Bitcoin. Like, I can tell you this, like, I am continuously discovering new concepts within Bitcoin. even on implementation level. And I'm like, Jesus fuck, these people were
I know.
these people were fucking forces of nature. And then when you look at the implementation that's going on with shitcoins, and I mean every single shitcoin from Ethereum downwards, it's just dog shit. It's just dog shit. Like you can run a Bitcoin node and that shit's gonna work. It's just gonna work. Like the CTO of Bitfinex, he tweeted out recently. He said only Bitcoin has been the most reliably, no problems basically. Otherwise, every single other coin's just basically got a problem at least once a month, basically.
Yeah.
So it's I'm telling you, and the circus and the smoke and mirrors that these shit coins put out to talk about how high quality it is or what, it's all bullshit.
I know. The shitcoins are mostly bullshit. Yes.
Yeah. So you can, like, for example, you'll see like some of the shitcoins, they advertise about how many commits they've got on GitHub. No, you go into those commits. Most of those commits are just fucking moving code around. Just like fuck off, bro. Like, fuck off.
But I was mainly referring to Bitcoin development because I'm very little interested in shitcoin development.
Sure.
I can't say I'm not interested in it at all, but they don't solve a problem I need solving. They don't solve a problem I think mankind needs solving necessarily. I mean, we can substitute anything a shitcoin does with the JSON API. It's not relevant. I know this is getting into the toxic Bitcoin maximalist talk. All right, so it's not completely fair, but there are things I like. I like that there is a development and an attempt at evolution. I like that,
Yeah.
And I will come back to this, why this is important and how it poses a problem. And so I find that even in the Bitcoin community, 90% now don't understand Bitcoin at all. And sadly, right now, I see that the people who are leading the narrative, who are the thought leaders and sometimes the sociopaths that get cheered on, have no idea how Bitcoin works, have no idea about the basic limitations and operational principles and nothing. And just say empty platitudes and boasts and it's getting celebrated. And like I said, it's like shouting into a hurricane when you raise something that's complete bullshit, man. And there are 10,000 comments and likes that say, you are stupid, go away. And I am frustrated with this. I am trying to shout into the hurricane, and some, like 40 people, actually like that so far.
Yeah.
But very easy to lose followers the moment you just talk to a shitcoiner about anything.
I don't know. I just don't engage on Twitter. Just let your code talk, man. Just let your code talk.
Yes, that's the plan. That's the plan.
Yeah.
I would like to get it, but like I said, for me to be confident to put out a beep or just a proposal or any code or whatsoever, I have so much work to do, right? I have so much to learn and so much to understand, and so that is coming. But I don't think I will be productive for a few years. Sadly, I don't know.
No, I completely agree with you. Like, for example, like my Indaba with Paul Stork was actually quite an important one. Actually, since I've changed my attitude about how to do these Indabas, and that's basically just interview people that I'm interested in. Initially, I was touching and feeling about how to approach this, and like maybe I can do a broad spread and like just interview what I think maybe other people will be interested in. And then I thought, no, I'm just going to do what I'm interested in, and that's that. So then I came with Riccardo Spagni of Monero. And like sort of speaking about Lightning stuff as well as the privacy preserving nature of stuff. They've just opened up more and more chapters to me. Paul Stork was a really important mental shift for me because he introduced me to this concept of drive chains, right? So that's the one that we spoke about, right? And drive chains really, and it's quite interesting because if you start reading the BIP, it's quite difficult to understand what's going on there. Paul's approaching it from an economist, and he's a long-time Bitcoiner. That guy is fucking hardcore. I mean, he's been around. He's been around. So and wow, I just like his sense of humor. It's just really funny. But and also he's working with some dude named CryptAxe, and they've implemented all of this drive chain stuff. And I see drive chains as quite a viable solution towards this problem of what we're speaking about, this sort of shitcoin eating the lunch of Bitcoin. But also it does allow for certain levels of innovation, which I think could actually pull all that shit, all of the scamming shit that goes on in the shitcoin. There are a subset of decent developers and interested people who are, like, for example, yourself, who's interested in these sorts of things, who can come out of these domains and actually create a little domain that you can sort of like build something, and that sort of thing can happen with Bitcoin. And it doesn't have to be these controversial fucking shit storms that get raised up by Roger Ver or it doesn't have to happen that way, So I really do subscribe to making the base layer of Bitcoin, like, make it minimal, ossify the shit out of it. So like, like, I think, open source projects, that they can reach a point where they've reached a level of maturity. So Bitcoin pretty much has reached that level. There's maybe a few good things which can be instilled into the layer, and then you can ossify it. But I think it's too early to ossify it just now. I think there's a few things that need to go in before you can completely ossify it. And as you were talking about the identity changing of Bitcoin, like, it's been a fascinating unfolding process of watching Bitcoin transform at each sort of layer, and now it's sort of like reaching the point where Bitcoin really it's the settlement layer, man. It's the settlement layer.
And what I thought was it's not over, because what I see. And this is the most important thing. You can try to move to this direction, that Bitcoin is really just a settlement layer, and 99.99% of the humanity is simply barred from using layer 1 directly. It's possible to move into this direction, but I have not seen a single solution that can do this without introducing trust and permission.
Do what?
To let the entire economic activity and the fallback to layer 2s in the same trustless and permissionless manner.
Oh, I know what you're saying.
And this is my problem. This is what I'm raising hell about, or trying to, and this is how we met, because, like I said, I'm on a quest to restore my faith in Bitcoin, because I see this, that we are at a state where some people try to cement everything, and Bitcoin has serious limitations, especially regarding
the transaction layer.
Yes, but as well as just onboarding mankind to layer 2, that's simply impossible. And people go out there and say Bitcoin for billions of people and own your own keys. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Just punch numbers into a calculator and you will see that's complete bullshit. You can't make billions of people owning their private keys and have anything on them, because it's just impossible. And I'm not ready. I'm not there where you are, where I'm ready to give completely up that layer 1 fallbacks are not necessary to maintain Bitcoin as a trustless and permissionless network. And I like Lightning very much, because with the fallback to layer 1 settlement, it no matter who you went to bed with to open a channel, you had a pretty straightforward process to get out it. Maybe he can make you wait 2 weeks, and you will be mad as hell that he made you wait 2 weeks. But he can't take your money. He can't extort it because you will be mad as hell. You will tell him to fuck you. And if he tries to publish an whole state, you will take everything that he has in the channel. And I like that, but it's just not possible on layer 2, right? So the entire thing about Lightning solves everything is bullshit, and people are still saying this to me every time I tweet about. I try to interject that, all right, Bitcoin for everyone, Bitcoin for billions of people, but how? Please tell me how, because I just don't see it. Aside from all these custodial bullshit solutions, and yes, you can muck around trust and permissions, but I think that's what all shitcoins do, right? So ever since Bitcoin's limitations became clear, every shitcoin that was born, almost, that was not just an outright scam, every shitcoin was trying to muck around with hiding trust and permission, or
compromising on
distributing it more and compromising on this. Yes. So you know what I'm talking about. Everything is just trying to find an acceptable balance, because it was pretty evident early on for the smarter people in 2012, was completely evident that Bitcoin just won't scale on layer 1. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And layer 2 scaling solutions, and especially I hate Liquid from this perspective, right? So
because
I would
it's custodial,
never use,
right?
I would not use Liquid. It goes everything against what Bitcoin and the decent layer 2 should be that I use.
Because it's custodial, right?
Yes, a federation has your coins. That's it. But if you are already on a centralized exchange and you are moving to another centralized exchange, and those centralized exchanges are signatories, I have zero problems with it going through Liquid and not polluting the fucking mempool and the block space, right? So that's their game. That's their trustful game, and they can settle with each other in court. And I don't care. In fact, I think that's quite good. There is something to gain there, and if you are in a centralized exchange, you are already entered a trustful relationship. I have no problem with that. It's fully okay.
Yes.
And for that specific purpose, I'm okay with Liquid, but I would not want to use Liquid. I would not want to enter Bitcoin on Liquid, and I would not want to hold my keys on Liquid. It's just not self-custody. Unless, and I will come back to this, some development happens on Bitcoin, some drastic and radical change that is not a big change, just changes everything. And there are these things tossed around. There is a lot of beeps. I didn't even go through all the beeps. I just sometimes I get my eyes on a few and fall in love, or just really start to think about it. And this is how I met someone when we were talking about Beeps 300 drive chains. Then someone pointed me to the video you made with Paul Stork, and that's his name, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So I watched the video. It was quite long and a bit painful because of your mic issues, but
sorry about that.
I loved it.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. So I don't think he's good at explaining things, by the way. I think he has a bit of a problem with that, but I liked a lot of what he said.
No, Paul, I put him in one of those like hyper genius sort of individuals, and it's like I could feel like he's been. I think I noticed that he was taking these large steps, and for him, it's almost like coming down to like us mortals, See what I'm not going to aggrandize him, but like,
I wanted to ask you about this. What do you think about that? We are basically standing on the shoulders of giants as far as Bitcoin goes, and that describes the development very well. And I used to say, because people were overhyping Satoshi's genius, I think. I mean, a lot of this was developed as a concept before he, from certain regards, he just put 2 and 2 together and sit on his ass and wrote the code, because that's the biggest thing. He did not just put out a white paper. Nothing would have happened if he put out a white paper. he implemented the system, and the system worked immediately. Worked. You could just start, and that was the biggest proof of work to me.
No. To me, having. Okay, so I've been sitting on my ass regarding this networking protocol for a long time, right? For like almost a decade, basically, and it's refining it and growing it, and then I can tell you something like actually saying, fuck it, let me just do it, and then I actually implemented it.
Yeah.
Coming out on the other end of that, I have like huge respect for Satoshi. But also at the same
put
time,
in the work, right?
Yeah, it very much puts your feet on the ground, and like a real recognition of his work. I'm not saying that my work is at the same level as Satoshi's. I'm not saying that, but I do at least have a notion of appreciation for what he's. But also at the same time, I'm not going to sort of aggrandize Satoshi's work. Like, for example, during the talk with Paul Stock, he was saying, Satoshi just happened to mention sidechains, of course he mentioned sidechains. This stuff is like pouring out of his, like, real time sort of like L1 cache information repository, it's second nature to him. So
yeah. And if you look up, however, that given Bitcoin's history as we know it, because we observed how it changed and what have been developed, and you go back and read Satoshi's posts, and you see him describe atomic swaps. Whenever people are,
absolutely, yeah,
we can now atomic swap with Bitcoin. Come on, dude, Bitcoin had atomic swap capability from day zero. Leave me alone. The problem is on your end. It's Monero has a bit of a shortcoming there that unfairly penalizes the Bitcoin side, and they are like, "Ooh, we got this thing solved. We made the atomic swaps with Bitcoin," and really, it's just they need to implement refund transactions somehow. Some time locks and refund transactions are needed to be fair as an atomic swap and really work. And instead, they just pushed all that crap on Bitcoin and penalized the Bitcoin side for their failings, and they are boasting about it. So, and Satoshi did this on day zero. And weird because script is not mentioned in the white paper. It seems like an afterthought. But for an afterthought, it's pretty well rounded as he released it. It almost can do too much, unnecessarily too much, and unnecessarily too well rounded. And I think something must have happened to his original concept that did not have smart contracts, and just try to implement various multisigs, and then gave up on it, and probably got introduced to smart contracts as a concept in the meantime as he worked on this. And I think that's why it's not mentioned in the white paper, but I could be wrong about this.
Yeah, I think you're wrong about this. I honestly think, like, having worked a little bit with the Ethereum Classic, like, I am dead against having a Turing complete machine on a blockchain. I'm fucking against that shit. It is fucking, don't do that. It's stupid. Don't do that. Even if it's a formalized, like bulletproof language, just don't fucking do that, because you're just going to compromise on the decentralization aspect. You want to create this, you want to make block size as tiny as bloody well possible, which and then you can decentralize. And then once you've got that, you've got your basically your settlement layer. Then you can start building it. But I want to go into the transactional layer, and
we can get into this a bit later, because I think it ties to type chains, and there is a lot to say about this. But what I wanted to say is that the powerhouse that Bitcoin script is so underestimated. Just the instant potentials in it, just how you sign a transaction, what parts of a transaction you sign, that can change everything in the world. And this is what I really, this is when I see these things click into place. Please, I just, did Satoshi had all this in his head? Did he had some I don't know what this is somehow scribed into the future 10 years from now, because everything is just clicking to place. What he said, what he did with Bitcoin. When Bitcoin was first released, there was 0 point in smart contracts, because it really just worked on layer one. And if you simply implemented a system where a simple public key was your address, and nothing else happened, and you can spend it with a single signature, Bitcoin would have worked just the same for many years. But we could not have built on that what we are building as far as off-chain scaling goes now, right? So
Right.
the revolution of off-chain scaling is impossible without script. And it really seems superior in many regards, because a blockchain is a fully serialized data set. I like to say this to shitcoiners who rant about this thing. It's a fully serialized data set. The layer one is a broadcast network layer, basically. I don't care how many times you broadcast a transaction, but it's a broadcast network. And
Reliable broadcast, yeah.
broadcast networks just don't scale for shit. If the internet worked as a broadcast network, I think we wouldn't even get one kilobit per sec out of it when we try to talk. It's just not. And not obviously, you can't put every bubblegum purchase on a broadcast network, right? That's just not a smart thing to do. And I was thinking jokingly when I saw DriveChain that we could put the entire Bcash stupidity on a sidechain safely contained, and it would actually be more secure than as it is
The
now.
entire what? The entire
Entire
what?
Bcash, Bitcoin Cash stupidity on a sidechain, and it would
Exactly.
be more secure, and they could experiment with whatever they did, and it would actually be Bitcoin, because it's a Bitcoin
Yep.
sidechain, it's a Bitcoin
Bingo.
asset, it's the same
Bingo.
21 million coins. You could do that safely,
Bingo.
securely contained, and the problem is that's not the point of Bcash, right? That's not the point of Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash is basically a specific form of attack on Bitcoin.
It's a rug pull.
No, it's a specific form of attack, and I'm afraid it's very well designed to be this attack. It's a sort of an extinction attack where it tries to soak up the hash rate. If anything bad happens to Bitcoin, it tries to immediately provide an escape hash for the miners, soak up the hash rate, and basically extinguish Bitcoin. And if they refuse to do it properly, refuse to move to a sidechain, an L2 sidechain with Bcash, the entire project, because it would do exactly the same things that they are doing on layer one, right? So you could have zero conf transactions and whatever block size you want as layer two. But if they refuse to do that, that's basically to me a confirmation that this whole thing is just trying to extinguish Bitcoin. It's trying to use Bitcoin's weaknesses against itself, because
I
it
see your logic.
specifically changed things that make it more robust than Bitcoin
Right.
from certain points of view. I mean, it's heresy, really. If you are a Bitcoiner, what they did to the consensus protocol is pure heresy. They fucked the Nakamoto consensus, and they have the audacity to call themselves the real Bitcoin. It's infuriating. But if you look at what they actually did, if you try to deep reorg Bcash, like with 10% of Bitcoin's hash rate, which a nation state can maybe manage to commandeer, or maybe miners even can have a bad day and joke about it.
Yeah.
What would happen if you try to deep reorg is the node will just ignore it. They would just ignore it, because they ignore it if it's deeper than 10. And the other interesting thing that would happen is they would probably go the Bitcoin SV route. Even if you successfully manage to introduce a fork they don't like, they could just exclude that, a single RPC command, and just forget about it, and all the energy you wasted on trying to attack something that is just indestructible. And the other thing is, what they did is you try to kill the miners, right? You have some let's say 90% of the Bcash miners are in China, and China just steps on their neck for whatever reason. What happens to Bcash? Nothing at all. Two things. They have the bigger blocks, so what transactions confirm a little bit slower, but they are all about zero conf, so they don't care. They spend zero conf transactions over there. I don't know how they think this is a good idea, but they do. They are proud of it, that you can get a zero conf transaction and just spend it and become another zero conf transaction, and they think that's a good idea. Whatever. And they have big blocks, so they can just include twice as many transactions as the hash rate falls. But Bitcoin, no. If you kill 50% of the hash rate on Bitcoin in a bull market, the congestion will be horrible backlog, and everyone will be miserable and whatever. So not only they are more resilient towards attacks from the miner angle, but they also make sure that they survive the fork, the minority fork, and they can do it again and again and again. And there's nothing that can really kill them as long as the community is steadfast and they are running the code and they have a social consensus. It's very, very hard to kill Bcash. You can frustrate them with constant reorgs, small, not deep reorgs. You can frustrate them, but like I said, they can just, with zero effort, undo all your work if they choose to. So if you take these factors together, and someone was talking about how it's possible to extinguish with a soft fork Bitcoin, how it's possible to extinguish Bitcoin with a soft fork. I don't think it is, because it's not going to be a viable network unless you broke the Nakamoto consensus. You can't have a stricter soft fork that extinguishes Bitcoin. You will just piss away money. That's all it's going to do. But what they did is they made a hard fork that is viable. I mean, you can say it's stupid, but it has a market value. It's working. And to me, like I said, that it is primarily an attack, a revenge project, and not what they are claiming to trying to achieve is basically proven if they are refusing to move to Bitcoin layer 2. When it's trivially possible, you know. That's just my personal take. I could be completely wrong about it, because there are other aspects to this, but I have this feeling that the entire Bcash ethos is just revolving around the flippening and revenge. It's not about delivering Bitcoin to everyone in Africa. That's a lie. So
I hear. I'm gonna apply Hanlon's razor to that. You know, do not ascribe maliciousness to what, you know, basic incompetence, basically, or I'm going to avoid those particular topics, the you know, like putting labels on saying, oh, this person's malicious or not, but at the same time, I do feel like there is if we just sort of sit back and sort of think, okay, is there, basically it comes down to saying, okay, we want to be able to get the entire world onto this thing, and then Roger Ver, etc., are not, I would not say they're deeply technical people. And it seems like a no-brainer. I just make it a big block, right? And then just add more people in. And then you can get more transactions in. And we've learned that now. This is you know, the lesson is learned, that this isn't going to work.
You could say it's learned, but Elon Musk just came out a few weeks ago and said basically
Elon Musk is a shit. Elon Musk is is pumping and dumping. That guy is picking up cheap ass Bitcoin, and he's, you know,
I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what he's doing, but
just go look at Thunderfoot's videos. You know, that's quite interesting.
I'm not going to argue, because I don't think I know what he's doing. I'm more interested in what he's doing with Mars than what he's doing with Bitcoin. But yeah, I think basically everyone who gets to know Bitcoin as Satoshi released it, will come to the conclusion that eventually the block size has to be increased, or it's not going to work for everyone. And then it takes a while, when you start to run numbers, to realize that there are problems with this, right? Serious physical and technological and whatever limitations are with this. So there is just no way to do everything on layer 1. However, you are much farther ahead than me. That's what I said, because I don't think abandoning layer 1 completely is a good idea. I'm not there yet, just yet.
Wait, are you implying that I'm okay with abandoning layer one?
No. I mean abandoning from the users, the everyday users perspective.
Oh, I see. Understood. Okay.
The completely settlement layer without your ability to fall back on, because that's my entire crusade to.
What do you mean by that? Sorry. Please, can you elaborate? You have the settlement layer without the ability to fall back.
Yes. So you as an individual, right? You are an
Yeah.
El Salvadoran ice cream vendor, all right?
Yeah.
And people are telling you that you can use Lightning because anytime there is a problem,
I can collapse down into the settlement.
you can cause them to, yes, but this is Bitcoin is on a clear trajectory that removes this. No matter who says what, it's going to remove this possibility, because layer one Assis is going to get the most expensive real estate. The real layer one blockchain
Sure.
is going to be the most expensive real estate on earth, probably.
Of course.
And so everything that you told about Bitcoin is going out the window a little bit if you project it forward.
Okay. All right. Okay. I can talk on these things.
All right, and that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to talk with you, because I want to talk about this. Yes.
All right. Okay. So okay. Let's assume. Okay. Under the hypothesis, let's assume that we're just going to stay on Bitcoin as we are right now. You know what? Can we just go to the toilet quick? I need a pee. Right. I'll edit this out. And we're back, feeling refreshed. Okay. So. Okay, under the assumption that we're just going to keep Bitcoin layer one, yes, we won't be able to scale to the entire population of the world. But what happens there is that Bitcoin is a black market money. Now I'm subscribing. This is out of Eric Voskuil. Eric Voskuil's newsletter. So actually, I interviewed Eric Voskuil in one of the Indabas. You should also check that one out. It's also a very good one. So Eric Voskuil's idea is that it's a black market money. Let it be a black market money. And if you want to scale out, then what you do is you'd have other chains maybe, and then you can have like decreasing levels of security for you to be able to adapt to. So just under the hypothesis, the idea that Bitcoin is a black market money, that gives you an exit strategy from the state. So essentially, that could be keeping. So here, the cypherpunks are keeping everybody honest. I'm going to come back to this. Cypherpunks keep everybody honest. So the state might choose not to adopt more sound monetary policy, et cetera, given that there is an alternative monetary system that that the people can fall back on. So that's already very good. Now, if we're going to implement, now I'm okay with. Now you said earlier on that you're okay with the scenario of, like, for example, exchanges making use of Liquid, which is a custodian thing, and they can settle between them, right? You're absolutely okay with it.
Custodian. If you are a signatory to the Liquid Federation, I think, then you can peg yourself out, as far as I can tell. So that's not a problem.
I agree. It's not a problem. So like, let's just assume that if you're paranoid, then you just stay on fucking base level on mainnet, on main chain. That's fine. And then if you want to take advantage of certain other features, maybe it's, for example, a side chain that implements ZK snarks, which allows you to introduce the concept of pure fungibility into Bitcoin, whereby you can, just like you can melt down a gold coin with unique scratch marks on it, you can do something equivalent and mint a new coin. You can do something equivalent with Bitcoin, in the sense that you melt down Bitcoin and you create a new Bitcoin without a transaction history. So you're unable to determine whether this Bitcoin was associated with some sort of crime or something like that. Okay, so that's a good feature. That's actually one of the features that I would like to solve. And
everyone who likes sidechains realizes that not every feature belongs on main chain. Not everything is a good idea on main chain, and you have to separate your risks and burdens.
Yeah.
So sidechains are really fantastic But if you are on layer 1, then for you to get to a sidechain will definitely require layer 1 transaction unless I'm missing something. And
No, it will
also,
definitely will. Yes, it will.
yes, and also if someone, if I project trends a bit further in time and assume that some people will just not give up layer 1 transactions just because they got expensive because they are Bitcoin billionaires and don't care. And the adoption grows and demand grows for Bitcoin block space. Basically, the vast majority of mankind will never do an L1 transaction, will never benefit from any fallback to L1 transaction, will only be able to buy Bitcoin on a sidechain. I think that from current trends, you can safely say that buying Bitcoin on main chain is just not for everyone. We are the lucky pioneers. We are like the people who fly wooden canvas planes, right? We are not the commercial jet flight that are going on today. And it's not necessarily the technological compulsion, but in some regards it fits. So if you accept that this is how it's going to be, then you better start working on making this to be close to the same level of trustless and permissionless and secure as we accept Bitcoin is. Because, like I said, if you fell in love with Bitcoin, you accept that the only thing it needs to be secure is that miners don't cooperate too much and they are distributed enough. That's the premise. And then it's a network where censorship is nearly impossible. Because
okay, just to add to that, what I find beautiful what I find beautiful is it's not that they just distributed enough. It's like the Nash equilibrium of Bitcoin. Actually, like wherever there's free or low cost energy sources, it will automatically attract miners.
Yes.
So there's a force to actively decentralize. It's not so collusion becomes like something that is difficult to achieve. Do you see what I mean? I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, there are two forces here. One force is centralizing Bitcoin mining, and that is basically the ASIC production. The ASIC production is centralized in China. People in China will have, especially people with big money who are big mining corporations. At least that was the history of Bitcoin, right? They had first dibs on the most modern miners, the biggest hash power. And they also had access to cheap electricity if it was due to corruption or illegal energy operations or just whatever, doesn't matter. So they had cheap electricity and manufacture lockdown. So Bitcoin really looked bad from this regard. And there is a trend now that is fantastic. I absolutely love it, where mining gets more decentralized because people realize that there are energy sources, as you said, all around the world that are smaller in scale, that are very good idea to mine. And also there is this whole thing about how we do our energy grids. I don't want to get into people explain it much better than I can. But there's a good reason to decentralize Bitcoin mining, and I absolutely love it. So it's working out perfectly. I think China did us a huge favor. I'm so glad. But people who boast about it, look what happened. Bitcoin came out stronger. Well, yeah,
like, yay!
China did not try to kill you, to murder you by commandeering the hash power and just plain wreck Bitcoin or try to. They did the best thing they could have done for us, and we should be really thankful. It's no time to boast. When 60% of the hash rate goes AWOL, you don't know where 60% of the hash rate is, and you are not terrified, horrified, whatever. You don't know how Bitcoin works, and
dude, not even terrified. Just didn't even give a shit. It was like, okay, well, yeah, the difficulty will drop, and then it'll start to go up and up and up and up and up. Oh, it's and that's exactly what happened. So it's fantastic.
Yes. But what I'm trying to tell is, you basically only know what you see on the network, right? What blocks are produced. That's the only thing you know for sure. And when 60% of the hash power disappears, it can be shadow mining. You don't know if it's shadow mining or not. You have no idea. until it comes back online. And I only got really, really happy and calm when over 50% of the hash rate came back online, and I knew that the chain that we are making will never be caught up by a hostile chain now, because that's impossible. So this is why the minority hash shit forks of Bitcoin are so stupid. I don't have to explain it to you, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. So where did we came from with all this minor decentralization? Yes. So the original Bitcoin ethos is just this: that we expect these two things from miners, that they work with the information publicly available on the network, and they do not cooperate aside from what is mandated by the protocol. And that makes Bitcoin secure, and we love that. And then you start to move towards a world where you start to expect from a group of people to behave decent and benevolent, because otherwise you can be denied service. Even 51% of the miners, if they decide to be hostile, they can censor your transactions. That's probably the worst they can do under normal circumstances on Bitcoin, because they can't break the rules. The network would just fork them off. And over time, the 49% would become the 60%, and they would get fucked. And but they can censor transactions for a while, but they can't really break the rules. And people like this. When people understand this, they start to like this whole concept. That they start to see the power in Bitcoin, the Bitcoin consensus, and all the purity, the purity of L1
and the
consensus.
simplicity.
Yes, and the simplicity. And then you start throwing off-chain on this, and the complexity just explodes, right? So the threat models, the difficult.
What do you mean by off-chain? You mean sidechains?
For example, Lightning, for example.
Okay.
Lightning and sidechains could be also.
So which? I mean, there are separate things. Okay. So when you mean the complexity explodes, what do you mean by that?
But you expect to go right to be secure.
Okay. So how to implement a transactional system yet retain trustlessness? So transactional system has certain features. For example, it needs to have like high throughput, all of that sort of stuff. Is that?
No, I mean, not your keys, not your coins. Sounds very simple and straightforward on layer one. It's very easy to grasp. But on Lightning, it's not so easy to grasp.
Okay.
And on a more complex,
I hear what you're saying.
Let's say you have an OpCTV channel factory, which completely breaks my mind when I try to properly understand it. And also the notion that you could have a channel factory that is never updated on chain and just shits out Lightning channels within itself, and those channels can be hundreds and thousands. I don't know what the practical limit is, but a lot of channels can be opened and closed and never hitting on chain. But to understand,
to open up a channel, you have to hit chain. It's a multi-sig contract.
Once for the channel factory. The channel factory, if someone opens a channel factory with, I don't know, 1,000 Bitcoins, he has to put that in escrow. There is no way around it. But that's a single transaction. And then you can open hundreds of channels on that, in theory. I recently came across with this idea. I'm not sure I fully understand it. Like I said,
I don't know this.
And you could, in theory, without updating the channel factory state on layer one, so no transactions, but you have escrow and you have all these states that you can punish if someone tries to commit an invalid state.
I see what
you
mean.
on.
Okay, so I'm not.
So what you do on Lightning, channel for a single person, you can just blow it up a little bit on a channel factory and create a de facto layer between layer 2 Lightning and layer 1 blockchain. So you have these off-chain scaling complexities just brain-wreckingly difficult to understand and be complex, and their threat models and vulnerabilities and everything. And you don't understand, if you are coming from the original understanding of a Bitcoiner, you don't understand why you have to make things so difficult and complex and impossible to understand. If we could just a tiny little bit increase the block size, we don't have to make it a gigabyte or a terabyte or a petabyte or whatever to handle every transaction mankind could possibly make on layer 1, because that's just plain stupid. We just make it big enough that we can onboard mankind to Lightning layer 2, or for micropayments, we allow them to maintain their channels and fall back with dispute to layer 1. And you can probably calculate that originally the Lightning white paper assumed it takes a 100 megabyte block. I think with recent developments, it came down to somewhere between 32 and 64 megabytes. And if developments continue, like I said, with these payment channel factories and stuff like that, it's entirely possible that 32 megabyte blocks would be enough for handling billions of transactions per day on Lightning, and enabling people to basically fall back to layer 1 where they have the original understanding of Bitcoin, And I am here in my journey that I don't want to let this go just yet, just because, I don't know, Luke Jr. doesn't like blocks bigger than 300K, right? So he has a personal problem with the Blockstream USB dongle, single core, whatever, can't handle with its 500 megabytes, unable to handle 32 megabyte blocks, maybe. I don't know. So I have this problem where I don't see it reasonable to just stranglehold Bitcoin over something that may be tolerable by Moore's law and whatever else technological progress you project for a while. It doesn't have to hold infinitely, because when you say we need to increase the block size, like double every halving, to keep the fees reasonable and whatever, people will start screaming, that's exponential growth, that's unsustainable. First of all, technology grows at an exponential rate. We observe this. It's not necessary that it will be unsustainable. We don't know. We can stop if it becomes unsustainable, right?
Yeah.
We don't have to limit. We don't have to apply to the 2010 limitations on technology forever. And I have one more point about all this. Because, like I said, I love that we keep L1 blocks as small as possible. But as small as possible, to me, cannot hurt trustless and permissionless and inclusive Bitcoin for everyone. That's not an acceptable trade. If we can do side chains, the smart way, the proper way, the decent way, where it's not becoming a custodial shit and the recreation of the banking system on top of Bitcoin, but everybody rants about, Everybody's saying we should avoid recreating the same custodial structures on top of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
All right, I think we should. Just someone show me the way, please. If I don't understand it, then I think most of mankind has no chance of understanding it, how this is possible. And you will see this reflect in the price and the market dominance of Bitcoin and the shitcoin ecosystem and everything. That's my thinking. And so I'm on this quest. Like I said, I want to restore my faith in Bitcoin. I want to have a clear vision again, how it will scale. How it will scale 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion payments a day. That's but roughly, by my calculations, every household does one transaction per day on average. That's what I came to researching credit cards and whatever. So about 3 billion transactions per day is what we should be going for. And human population does not grow exponentially because it's capped by agricultural capacity, I think. I found that revolutions in agriculture tend to make the human population go up exponentially.
Yeah.
But I think we capped. That's what I see on the graphs, that we are actually losing agricultural capacity. I'm sorry. I think we kept our population for now. So I'm not afraid of mankind just multiplying exponentially.
Yeah.
And that transactional need. All right. So, and one more thing I wanted to say about all this is, so if you just mention that maybe the 1 megabyte block limit is just a parameter and not a wholly I don't holy cow or whatever, not holy scripture, that the Bitcoin protocol is not actually about this parameter. It's the monetary policy. It's everything else, and this is just a technical parameter that we could actually change. Sure, it's a hard fork. I understand that's a problem. But if you just say this in certain circles, and that's kind of worse than shouting into a hurricane. That's kind of like shouting into a hurricane where cows fly at you. So where cows fly at you, horns first, and so it's really difficult for me because I am not yet ready to give up L1. Just not yet. But you wanted to say something about this, please.
So a few things. I'm always worried about. I'm always worried about solving a problem that isn't a problem yet. Do you see what I mean? So it's like,
yes.
And there are very, very good reasons for this. Like if we went about and solved this problem in 2011, we didn't even know what Bitcoin was back then. We had no fucking clue. It was like a toy thing. I remember sending around Bitcoin to people. If I had any idea what Bitcoin was going to be, like maybe some smart people were like that, but like my attitude to Bitcoin was not what it is now. So like I think there's and being an astronaut engineer is not engineering for stuff that's like hypothetical scenarios down the line. I mean, who knows when?
Yes.
I don't think it's good engineering. I just don't think that's good engineering. And as we can see from the shitcoins are examples of shit engineering, and that's every single one of them.
Yeah.
And for now, like if you can keep Bitcoin nimble, light, fluffy, and very, very sharp and to the point, or fluffy and sharp. I shouldn't have used that. I shouldn't have said fluffy. Then what will happen is that you become like this solid thing, and this is why when you get the CTOs of exchanges, they're saying Bitcoin is the only one that doesn't give a shit.
Yeah. One thing. Do you see that when you look at the charts of the mempool this year?
Yeah.
How it went? Would you say that it's something that is working to the benefit of its users, and it's something where people in countries like El Salvador could come in by the millions and billions and just not be robbed blind and denied basically by not being able to afford to participate. So that is what you see on those charts, because
I'm not sure. Like okay, so yeah, the mempool and like SegWit is allowed for very like empty mempools. That's just kind of very interesting. So that gives some headroom, yet keeping the small block space. What more kind of things will arise from this? They got the Schnorr signatures, which will be able to keep things tight.
But that's not also main block thing, right? The Schnorr whatever you do with Taproot and the rest, it's not a main block thing. It's the extension block that gets more efficient, and that's a burden that should be kept as small as possible. I fully agree. I love it, but that's not what limits Bitcoin's throughput. That's not really what sets the price, despite what anyone imagines, because the main block is the thing that is just unyielding and really limits what UTXOs you can make. And so I have come to the conclusion, because of course I didn't like the fees in 2017, but I was like, all right, people are stupid. They will learn. We will not repeat this. And it looked good for a while. It looked very good. And then 2021 happened, and it started all over again and got worse, really. And I start to see $9,000 fees flying around or whatever, and so this $9,000 not per by $1,000, and I see Adam Beck expressing frustration at the users of the network who try to store and transact value on Bitcoin, and we have already demolished every other use case, right? At this point, we are all about sovereign money and storing and transacting value, real value on the network. And he says you shouldn't do that. You are causing congestion, right? Instead of saying whatever else or saying nothing. And that was my breaking point. Something broke in me, and I was like, this is not good. If the developers can only express their frustration at the users using the network and causing congestion, then something is really fucked. I'm sorry. And I was then I was starting to think about what happening when I looked at the mempool chart, and a horrible realization came to me. And I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm saying this could have happened, and this can happen anytime. Miners can spam the mempool with low priority transactions, forcing everyone to higher and higher brackets. And basically it costs them barely nothing, and they make millions of dollars a day. And there is absolutely no control mechanism whatsoever for Bitcoin right now, because the only control mechanism for this kind of spam would be that another miner takes his fees and he loses the fees. We can't distinguish the miner's transactions from the user's transactions. We have no recurse, just defection. And when you create a system and you celebrate a system where the only curse of correction is defection, and you blame people who go to shitcoins or defect Bitcoin and go to shitcoins and do custody of shit, you blame them, you are fucking insane. And like I said, I'm all about the correct incentives, right? I want a system that self-governs, that is software, that doesn't need humans grokking about its nature, right? So shitcoiners and cashies especially, they like to try to drag this debate to what Bitcoin is to a philosophical level. But that's not Bitcoin is. The genius of Bitcoin is the software can tell what Bitcoin is, right? The software automatically tells you what Bitcoin is and what is not, and that's it. And that's what Satoshi did. And it created an incentive structure, an incentive system that is somewhat hard-coded and reliant on ever-increasing transaction count. And I know we can move them to L2. We can aggregate transaction fees on L2. I don't have to explain to that. I listened to the show. That's great. I love it. But I don't see yet how you can translate the same trustless and permissionless and censorship-resistant properties to L2. I
don't think you need to. I don't think you need to. You've got, as I said, right, starting out with the Eric Voskuil stance, which is like, yeah, okay, fine. If you just got main chain, it acts as an escape hatch, and it can be keeping everyone honest. So the same applies for side chains. The same applies for anything that's built on top of it. You are definitely going to get the Twitter. What's the founder of Twitter's name? What's his name again? Jack Dorsey. You're going to get him building these custodian solutions, which, and to be frank with you, like it's even my mum's in Bitcoin. I'm impressed, but there are grandmothers out there who don't know how to use computers. They don't know how to do this stuff. And yeah, they're going to be more exposed to risk. Sure. Yeah. But the solution will be very simple for them, and they can get exposure to Bitcoin. It's about different levels of exposure. Now, I had your mindset, which was either the clear cut, straight down the middle, either do or die, black or white. And I found that adopting that mindset actually made me, and it also happened to you, just describing, like, I lost a lot of opportunities getting into Bitcoin, like in significant amounts, because of having that sort of black and white mindset. So it's like, as I'm getting older, I sort of like, I try to keep the principles, but I start to be mellow on the side, on the edges, and say, maybe I'm not right. You see what I mean? For example, our entire society, we're fucking sending people into space. We're fucking, we're engineering like massive, amazing modern medicine and all sorts of amazing stuff. And that was built with a fiat currency, which is just trust. You see what I mean? So it's like, fine. That's like, I'm not saying we compromise the security of main chain. No, main chain will always be the fucking exit. It will always be the exit strategy. The Christine Lagarde, as Max Kaiser likes to say, is the exit hole or the exit.
Yes, but when only Max Kaiser, Michael Saylor, and Christine Lagarde can use it, I have problems with this.
I mean, what when they can use Bitcoin?
If only they can afford to use Bitcoin, I have a problem with it.
Oh no, I mean, okay, no, I think, dude, look, okay, I'm not going to be communist about that, eh? I'm not going to be communist. Like going down the communist route where I say, oh yeah, Bitcoin needs to be available for everyone. Let's, I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to do that. Like,
all right. I like your
it's-
honesty. I like your honesty, but it's not what I see. You understand that my frustration comes from two things. One is that there are problems. There are things we simply can't do. We haven't figured out how to do and can do as is. Nobody figured it out, as far as I can tell. Or I'm trying to discover if it's actually exists, and I'm stupid, But as far as I can tell,
I'm not sort of done. I hear what you're saying, but like, for example, like I'm okay with the concept of Paul Stork's drive chains, though. Drive chains basically we already do this anyway with the Bitcoin miners, right? All our trust is on them. If they start colluding, they fuck us all. They fuck themselves too. But they can fuck like lightning transactions. They can fuck everything. Just 51% or more. They can fuck things up. And it suddenly becomes not in their incentive to do that. It's like the Nash equilibrium not to do that. They're instead of like colluding, well, I'm just going to go set up a nice little energy harvesting thing and then go mine over there. And then at the same time, I might as well run some side chains and earn extra side chain fees. You see what I mean? So there's no incentive for them. Well, sure, there is incentive for them to shut down shitty side chains. So be it, they steal from it.
They can extract a lot of value too, because I don't think that 51% of the miners can break the rules. That simply won't work. Even 75% of them couldn't break the rules, but
the rules of side chains, of drive chains.
Main chain, I mean.
The
rules of main chain, they couldn't. But think about it: if 75% of the hash rate goes AWOL, then the block times grow 4 times as much. The difficulty adjustment period grows 4 times as much. The congestion becomes immediately horrible, and Bitcoin is going to get sold on centralized exchanges because you can exit to other currencies and shitcoins immediately. So basically, they can extort you into capitulation at least, and probably kill the minority chain if they want to. But they can't break the rules. So it's not, they can't steal from you. If they don't have your private key, they can steal from you on the wallet chain. That they can do, but they can do a lot of bad shit. I agree. However, on BIPs 300, what I noticed is they can take your shit, and they can rug pull side chains. It's not that
they can rug pull. Did you say rug pull?
Rug means
rug pull. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
they can fuck up side chains. No, I don't disagree. And I think that's a feature. I think that's a feature. Here's why. It's no different from a venture capitalist. It's absolutely no different from a venture capitalist who's got money and who's going to, like, for example, you approach, let's say you are a side chain and I am a side chain, and I approach this venture capitalist and say, here's my pitch. This is what I'm going to offer. You approach, same thing, and then you get it and I get killed. That's fine.
Yeah, but
you got a better idea.
The venture capitalist puts in his capital and he risks a significant amount of the capital.
Absolutely.
But on the side chains, it could be possible that the miners don't found the side chain. Although I think it would be smarter if you let them play with their own money. But that's just my take.
No, but that is their own money, because they're the ones that are going to be earning the fees from all the transactions on that side chain.
That's I think that's a bit different. But my point is, if miners provide the liquidity, if miner provides the liquidity for the drive chain escrow fully, then they can only rug pull themselves from the Bitcoin side, at least. If you put in money, they can take that money. But if they provide the liquidity, they can only take from themselves. That's the theory. That is why I think if this goes through, I would be more comfortable if they had a serious stake in the form of Bitcoin. However, they can always extract that Bitcoin. So if a startup goes wrong, the venture capitalist is going to lose a lot of money because it's just going to get eat up. But in case of the miners, even if they put in the liquidity, let's assume they put in, that's the best case. Even if they put it, they can take it out. The Bitcoin will be fine. They can take it out anytime. They repo the sidechain, the valuation immediately goes to zero, and anyone that bought on the sidechain is basically rugged. That's how they call it. And I don't particularly like that. You say that it's a feature. It kind of goes against your key and self custody and self sovereignty and no trust.
Hang on, wait. No, I'm okay with like the hardcore stuff on main chain, and I'm okay with stepping down the trustless nature by going into a sidechain, a useful sidechain that has no history of being having transactions stolen from, etc.
Yes, and this is my problem. We can downgrade this trustless and permissionless property if we are honest about it. So when you go out there and tell, everyone,
the drive change project has always been open about it.
I'm not talking about that. Okay. I'm not talking about what you are saying. I'm talking about general discussion on Bitcoin scaling and how Bitcoin will be available for everyone. If you look at Twitter, everyone is saying, own your own keys, self-custody, the usual pitch that we hear in 2010 and 2011. The usual pitch is coming back. However, we have learned a lot since then, and Bitcoin and so I hate it. I hate it, and it seems to be the ongoing narrative, and it seems to me.
Okay, so you hate the fact that people are so hardcore about trustlessness, or not?
No. Oh no, I love it. I'm all about.
You love the trustlessness, but you hate the idea of loosening the trustlessness. Is that what you're saying?
I hate the idea of lying to people. You are telling the world that it's possible for them to own their own key and be trustless and be self-sovereign, and everyone can do it. I hate that this lie is so persistent because it's a fucking lie as things are, and I want it to be real. I really wish. I really wish we worked hard and tried to do it for real, but I think we both know that as layers come, some degradation of trustlessness and permissionless.
It has to happen.
In a bit. However, I did not want to go so quickly onto this, but I just when I started to pose this problem on Twitter to someone on a discussion similar to this, I kind of solved my own problem a little bit. I'm not sure if it's a good solution, but I'd
love to hear it.
I want to talk about it a little bit later. I want to get back just a tiny bit, and I'm not a rabbit big blocker. Okay, I'm not a big blocker in the sense that I want I want blocks to be as small as possible, but I don't want to sacrifice too much from Bitcoin's value proposition.
So you say just like hit the calculator, calculate exactly the block size that we need to onboard the entire world onto a Lightning type things, and then just roll with that.
Organic growth was my original. When this.
I think that will happen.
This whole thing that this shitstorm that started in 2017, I think.
Yeah.
It started in 2016 maybe, but it culminated in 2017 because I have to admit I was a big blocker before the fork, right? It was when the fork happened, the minority fork of Bcash happened. That's when I said, "Fuck you, This is not Bitcoin. This is not how Bitcoin works. Fuck you. You made a shitcoin." All right.
Bitcoin SV, you mean?
No, that was BCH. I think BCH was 2017. I think so. When BCH, Bitcoin Cash forked, I think as I was in support with Bitcoin, support of Bitcoin Unlimited. I'm not sure if I'm telling Bitcoin Unlimited is organization, and I agreed with a lot of things that they said, and I did not know as much about stuff as right now. It seemed self-evident. Like I said, if you come from an understanding of how Bitcoin worked in 2010 and you love that, you are not ready to easily let that go. And cashies never let that go, really.
Yeah.
They just let only one thing go, the most important thing, the Nakamoto consensus. They completely let it go. They ignore 90% of the white paper to point out like two phrases in the white paper that supports that argument. So, but I am not yet there mentally where I'm completely ready to give that up. And I don't really see a good reason to completely give that up if we can do side chains and off chain scaling smart.
Well, okay. It's look. My mentality is this: people like Jack Dorsey are going to come along and they're going to create entirely custodian solutions. They're going to lift the entire population up, and then where were the fucking cypherpunks who made as best as close to trustless solutions as possible? And I tell you where they are. There are people like Paul Stock, and I know it's not an ideal solution, and no, it's not entirely trustless. But you know what? It's a graceful degradation, I could say. But then again, if you look at it from another angle, what you've just done is that you've created a Darwinian evolutionary system on the side chains, whereby miners will look at the different side chains and they'll say, you know what, we've only got space of 256 different side chains that can exist. We're going to fucking select the side chains that make, have the most amount of fees and actually drive the price of Bitcoin up the most. So more power to them. They're the ones that are already running this fucking chain, and it's difficult and it's cutthroat. And the block rewards are going down, and fees also going down. So like, why not let them earn their security budget from the side chains? But more importantly, is that people like Jack Dorsey, people will onboard onto those sorts of things, and not 100% custodial solutions.
No. Jack Dorsey is in a precarious position, really. I have to add that, because he runs Twitter, and Twitter is heavily under the thumb of the law for these free speech oppressing idiotic regulations and Bank Secrecy Act and what.
His own employees are woke as fuck, man.
So I don't think he can. I think if he adopted Lightning as Lightning should be adopted, or anything, I think he would get wrecked by the regulators. That's what I think. And that is why he probably went with a solution where he just have to plug in a fucking API call under 5 seconds with Strike, and let Strike deal with the KEC bullshit so that he doesn't have to.
Is Strike open source?
I have no idea about that.
Yeah, exactly. Nor do I. I don't know. Everybody's jumping around about Jack Mallers. I doubt that shit is all open source. So where's the cypherpunks?
I hated everything he said about his business. Then I watched a talk about him describing his vision for this all, and then I was like, oh, maybe this is a decent guy. But I know absolutely nothing if he's doing the right things or not.
No, nor do I. But my point is that, like, if cypherpunks don't get their fucking act together, and basically, I'm going to point a finger at you. If we keep sitting there saying, nah, it's either black or white, it's either black or white, and I'm not going to fucking do anything, then bye-bye. The train is left.
And
any relatively decent solution that could have come by, but a graceful degradation of trustlessness, at least you pinned it onto the miners. The miners are responsible for that shit anyway. But if you just keep taking the brain dead assumption, it's like, oh, miners can steal from it, you're fucking up. You're gonna miss that train.
I'm gonna tell you,
it's good enough. Main chain is good enough.
I'm gonna tell you a bit rush ahead, and I'm gonna tell you that what would make me comfortable with the way how you described in your talk BIP 300 drive chains.
Yeah.
What would really make me at ease is if miners were the sole funders and stakeholders of the escrow, and somehow the only way they could destroy a sidechain is if anyone, or rather everyone, sold their sidechain coins back to them or destroyed them, whatever. So they are out. And they are the ones that holding the sidechain coin equivalent of the Bitcoin holdings, and then they destroy it. That would, I would say, that's perfect. That does everything just right. And if they try to do some shit, then they should have suffer serious economic consequences for that. That should cost them Bitcoins. And I know it can't be done because layer 1 cannot be expected to uphold layer 2 rules.
No.
That's the entire point of layer 2 is
Yeah.
that you can't do it. And the moment you try to put in a regulatory body that with the
Exactly.
smart contract is trying to punish bad behavior, it can be used for censorship, to force censorship on it. So I know that this is a snake that bites in its own tail. I was hoping that there could be a solution, some solution found to this, but I have not found it. And I think probably nobody else found it. But if did, I would be happy as hell.
I know. I hear you. Like this to me, like, okay, I want to solve the problem of fungibility and lift everybody in the world up. I think this is a pretty grand goals to solve, right? And then, like, I know that there's a whole group of people right now, especially the non-programmers, who are busy saying, "Oh, what's it? Another guy wants to fix Bitcoin." When I hear that, I just want to smash my microphone on them. It's like, dude, like back off. You sound like those Ethereum classic shitcoiners, who just back off out of this territory. You don't know what's going on.
Can you imagine the sheer number of technically inept people that try to fix Bitcoin over the past decade?
Oh man, yeah.
So yes, I am a tiny little bit sympathetic to the people who say just shut the fuck up, don't try to fix Bitcoin. It doesn't need fixing. I understand why they say this, but I also know that Bitcoin needs fixing.
But it's largely true. But that's the thing. That's exactly the thing. It's largely true. Bitcoin is so close to ossification. It's so close to ossification. I don't think it should be just quite yet. I mean, it needs to be, in my opinion, like my opinion of Bitcoin has changed so much in the past 10 years. It's like now I'm at the point where it's like, store of value. Yeah, that's good. That's good. But what about crane lifting into layer 2?
Yeah, I would change very little things about Bitcoin.
I agree.
Nothing on the fundamental, just certain things I would change, and I would only change them in a way that allows Bitcoin to react to hostility. To be a bit more resilient to outright hostility.
Here's the other thing.
And that is, and I would change it in a way that it will be a self-reinforcing incentive system, a better incentive system that fixes itself over time. And that is, but just discussing these things is straight up heresy. If you are talking to a Bitcoin maximalist, just mentioning them that the fixed 1 megabyte block limit is just the worst possible engineering decision that you could make to achieve the same goal. You can achieve the same goal a lot of ways, but the 1 megabyte fixed limit is just the worst fucking thing you could do to Bitcoin. And before ossification, all right, it's a word I think I can relate to, but I don't think Bitcoin should ever ossify. I think, like I said, in an evolutionary standpoint, it should never ossify. It should always be willing to adapt to hostility. But if you don't have immediate hostility and you don't have immediate problems, then the only changes you should implement, and every change proposal I think should go through hell. Like I wrote this on Twitter, and even applies to BIP 300. It should go through hell again and again, however much it's boring and painful, because yes, there is value in that a system cannot be changed if it doesn't need changing. If it's not about survival, if it's not about survival, it shouldn't change. But there are just bad design decisions on Bitcoin, and they have not been thought well through. And before we try to declare ossification, we should really fix them. So, for example, take the mempool, right? We had a huge clogging of the shitter, let's say, and those transactions mostly went through, just took a lot of time. So the blockchain growth is given. If you let them go through faster or slower, that doesn't matter long term. It's the same amount of work to verify. It's the same amount of work to sync. You just made everyone miserable for no good reason. And one way I have thought about it, I mean, at first I really didn't understand why we can't grow with technology. The way technology grows, hard drive space, CPUs, bandwidth. I didn't understand why can't we keep it simple and scale layer one just with technology growth, preferably with an organic way. The organic growth is beneficial because you can have some fee market, because the fee market is beneficial in separating slow and fast, urgent and not urgent transactions. So it does a lot of good, I think. It provides more extractable value for the miners, and for a service they actually provide. When they give you priority, you should pay them more. It's capitalism. I love it. But the unchecked fee market, like I said, it's the most ugly, dangerous, and stupid thing in Bitcoin that I can think of right now. And of course, people say that Bitcoin can't increase its block size because it has no tail emission and whatnot. And I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I don't think it's related to each other. I think that's a stupid way to looking at it. There are engineering solutions to engineering problems. I believe that. But first, we would have to honestly discuss them. And not just the two of us. We should, as a community, discuss these problems, because there is no way that I'm going to come up with the best solution for Bitcoin. But when the discussion is killed at the first word that you mentioned block size, and the shouting begins, that's just horrible to me. So what I wanted to say, yes, this thing about the fee market and how we really want to keep the blockchain growth manageable. It's not really the exact block size. We don't really care about 1 megabyte to 2 megabyte or 6 megabyte at any given moment. That's not it's the rate of the L1 block size over a longer time period, and the dynamics between bull and bear markets. So we should shrink the block size when there is low demand for block space, and we should grow the block size when there is high demand for block space, because that's just best for the users, and I think long-term the miners will not be happy if in a bear market there will be no fees for them. Everyone knows that it's going to be a problem sooner or later, and miners, of course, very happy when it's a bull market and they can extract these horrible fees from the users. And like I said, you can't stop them spamming the mempool. You can't. It's impossible. If they did. I can't prove it. But if they didn't, they might do next time.
How are you going to? Okay, so the input to the function which will expand or contract the block size is external, right? To the blockchain. It's the price information, right?
It has to be internal to the consensus mechanism.
Yeah, but now you spoke about the bull market and the bear market.
I know.
Like how are you going to? How are you going to get
problem, right? Oracle problem, right? If you want to create a solution where average 6 block confirmation costs $1 for the user.
Yeah, but now I just have to compromise that oracle, and now I can sort of fuck with Bitcoin by increasing the size of
exactly. So that's a stupid thing to do. And I have been thinking about things like how the miners could put price information in the blocks, and you could aggregate them and use that long term, because it doesn't have to be very quick to deal with congestion efficiently. So and we all see the fees, right? The fees are actually verifiable. by the protocol. That's not a problem. The paid fees are clearly visible. Consensus mechanisms can deal with it. The price information was missing, but probably it's not a good idea to put the price information, although physical time is put on the blockchain in a similar manner. So it's not the first that Bitcoin miners act as oracles. I have to say it's not the first, but still it seems hackable and it's not such a good. So what I think is two things. One, we have to lift mankind up, but that could be a temporary thing. Like if we arrive to very good sidechain solutions, very good stable and reasonably trustless and permissionless tried sidechain solutions in a decade or 2 decades, then we don't really need anymore anyone to use layer one block space much. Like billionaires can do it, hedge funds can do it, banks, countries settling can do it, whatever. But they can do it other ways. They can do it with atomic source, whatever. So a lot of interesting things are possible. But say you have to rebalance sidechains, right? That is going to be enough. 1 megabyte should be enough to rebalance sidechains, and so maybe it's a temporary problem, and maybe that is why we don't have to worry about exponential growth, right? So if we really just let people to participate in Bitcoin, then the simple fact that sidechains are cheaper are going to move almost everyone to sidechains eventually. But it will let them not be held hostage by sidechains. It will let them not be held hostage by custodial solutions, because they have an affordable layer one fallback for a period of time where Bitcoin is really just going through a painful rebirth, because how it was in 2010 is not how it will be in 20 years from now. And this is my current way of thinking, that we should let people work, let people fall back to L1 as far as it at least allows for onboarding of mankind and the maintenance. But the spam is a real problem. You can just remove the block limit, right? Completely. Removing the block limit completely is just inviting a cheap DOS attack, block extension attack, whatever. Satoshi put that there for a reason. Hal Finney said to put it in for a reason, but I really wish they didn't. I think we could have dealt with spam, somehow survived spam with somehow differently that did not require a hard fork to fix, or they should have made it just double with every halving or something, and we would be in a better situation, because decreasing the block size is soft fork, right? So if users, as Satoshi said, again, he just predicted this out of nowhere, that users are going to be increasingly tyrannical about block size, maybe. And I think we are seeing some serious tyranny here, right? So try to talk to Bitcoin Maxi circles about how we should need a little bit more block space, and you are going to see some unpleasantness. And and yes, and I think as a long average, blocks should get smaller and smaller. But when it really needs to, and this comes back to the adaptiveness. Let's say Bitcoin hash rate falls to half in the middle of a bull run, right? So the demand for block space is very high, and the hash rate, at least make it so that block times and really it's just the megabyte per sec that you want to limit. The megabytes per sec you want to limit. If the block times are double, why not make the blocks double? Like I said, Bitcoin Cash does this by nature. Of course, it doesn't have an adjustable block size. It just nobody uses it, so it does it in effect, right? So Bitcoin could do it by design. That is one approach that you could take. That alone would be smarter than the 1 megabyte fixed limit. That just switches on and off the hash the fee market, and it's really just stupid in every which way. So even just doing that, we limit the megabyte per sec instead of limiting the block. I know it's an easier implementation. You don't have to tell me the difference between the two, but even that will be smarter. And what would be even interesting is if you simply let people burn fees. to include more transaction. You can still set a maximum. You can still say that the 1 megabyte is doubled every halving, and that's the absolute maximum, because like I said, it ties into the technological growth. The expected growth of bandwidth capacity and CPU capacity and hardware capacity exceeds this, because it's a lower exponent. So it's probably safe and gives us a wiggle room. Gives us a wiggle room when things go bad. And the spam can be dealt with multiple ways. One of the ways is, like I said, if you have to burn fees to include above the 1 megabyte limit, then only people who actually want to transact will want to do that, right? So anyone that just wants to spam the block, the Bitcoin, he will bleed stocks. He will lose shit and lose money, and it will cost him. And a miner can do it either, but he will lose it, right? So he's going to have to sacrifice, burn money to spam the chain and accomplish really nothing. So there is, I think, there is a very decent argument to at least allow for an intermediate time for really high demand to pay for and pay dearly. Like I said, burning Bitcoin forever is like a high price if you think about it. And as Bitcoin goes up in price, let's say you just say 1 sat per byte above the 1 megabyte block limit, one sat per byte will be burned. The miner has to burn it, right? He can't include that amount in his Coinbase transaction. He has to effectively burn it. That would be the new consensus rule. And over time, as Bitcoin goes up in price, that will be a lot. So we are not dealing with a situation where you can just increase the block space forever. It's more like a bullet wound. It expands when it really has to, and as the force decreases and the opposing force increases, it just contracts. And we could end up with an effectively 1 megabyte or smaller block, because, like I said, you can lower a soft fork to lower this limit, where you don't have to burn fees. That's the 1 megabyte limit in my theory. You don't have to burn. We can lower it as time goes by. The miners are starving. They need that fee market, whatever. We can lower it in time and move everything to sidechains. When the sidechains are ready, we don't have L2 solutions that can take mankind. I think everybody same will agree with that. It's not ready, right? L1 is working. It's well tried. It just can't take everyone. L2s are nowhere near, and everybody is out there who is saying that everybody can use Bitcoin right now, and you can be your own master, your own custodian. It's just fucking lying. Either lying, or they can do basic math, or they just never bother to listen to anybody, just their own kind. I don't know what to say about that, but it frustrates me. We shouldn't lie. We shouldn't sell false promises to people. Either admit that Bitcoin can't fucking scale, and we can't fucking take mankind except with custodial solutions, and start working in ensuring that those custodial solutions are good. But I don't think it's a good idea, and I want to get back to Casey and Kiwi and all that nonsense a bit. So custodians are so easily attacked.
Yeah,
from
but just to sort of like let you know, that's like it's already gone on for about 4 hours now. 4 hours, 5 minutes. I know it's quite a. This might be the longest Indaba I've had.
To talk about, and we didn't even get to BIP 300. But
I'm also getting my wife sort of like giving me a little bit of a glares,
Shall we continue later?
Let's have a part 2. It might be maybe maybe like next week or something, but I'll upload part 2 probably maybe later on.
All right.
But yeah, no, we can definitely do another episode, part 1 and part 2.
Yes. I have some unfinished business on this, so that would be a good pickup for part 2, where I really just expand on where I'm stuck right now on this whole thing, and then we could really do the BIP 300, because that is why I reached out to you to talk about BIP 300. I have questions. I want to understand it better, and I want to express my problems and why I like it.
Great, man.
All right.
Moonsettler, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.